Chapter 1157. Does Prince know about it? Xiao Wanru asked. Prince already knows about it. He said that it doesn't taste very good and wants you to have a taste. Chu Lu said with a smile, Your Highness, do you want to try one? Xiao Wanru looked at these fruits and shook her head. Forget it. I don't want to use them now. Is there anything else? Concubine Lan said that if you have nothing to do, you can go to the palace to accompany her, and it's better to take Miss Qin with you, Chu Lu reported. Qin Yan had been in Prince Chen's mansion for a few days. In the past few days, she had been very quiet, as if the person in the double-breath palace was not her. She neither came to Xiao Wanru nor went to Chu Liuchen's place. It was said that she not only didn't go to Chu Liuchen's place but also kept a distance from Chu Liuchen, as if she wanted to avoid arousing suspicion. Miss Qin, what's the matter recently? Xiao Wanru blinked and asked. If Qin Yan had been so quiet, she would be willing to treat her as a real cousin. She had asked someone to tell Qin Yan that she didn't have to come to pay her respects when she was not feeling well. Miss Qin is fine. She still does embroidery and occasionally appreciates the scenery in the garden. Even if she accidentally bumps into Prince Chen, she just salutes him from a distance. She is very polite. Go and invite Miss Qin here. Xiao Wanru thought for a while and said. Since Concubine Lan mentioned Qin Yan, she would not hide it. Yu Jin nodded and went out. After a while, she came back with Qin Yan. Greetings, cousin-in-law. Qin Yan entered the door and bowed to Xiao Wanru. Miss Qin, you're too polite. Please sit down. Xiao Wanru smiled and asked Chu Lu to invite Qin Yan to sit down. Cousin-in-law, how are you? Qin Yan asked softly with her clear eyes. I'm almost recovered. Just now, Concubine Lan sent me a message and asked me to take you to the palace to see her. When are you free? Xiao Wanru went straight to the point. Qin Yan raised her head and looked a little surprised. After thinking for a while, she said with a smile, I have nothing to do in Prince Chen's mansion. If you feel free, I will be free. I'll listen to your orders. Qin Yan was very gentle and her smile was very gentle. In this case, when I go to the Imperial Palace to visit the Empress Dowager in a few days, I will take you to the Imperial Palace to accompany Concubine Lan. Xiao Wanru thought for a while and made up her mind. Cousin-in-law isn't going? Concubine Lan should be very happy to see my cousin-in-law, right? It's not convenient for cousin to go to the Imperial Palace to see Concubine Lan, but it's just right for you to go there. Xiao Yanru looked at Xiao Wanru and said in surprise. It was certain that Concubine Lan was on Prince Chen's mansion's side. As Prince Chen's concubine, Xiao Wanru should naturally be on good terms with Concubine Lan instead of acting as if it was just a convenience. I heard that Concubine Lan likes peace. It's not appropriate for me to disturb you. Your Highness, you also think that I shouldn't disturb you at this time. The Empress Dowager is ill, and the Empress is also unwell. It's better to visit them when we enter the Imperial Palace. Xiao Wanru said implicitly with a slight smile. Of course, it meant that it was also Chu Liuchen's idea that she was not close to Concubine Lan. Your Highness, don't you like to be close to Concubine Lan? Xiao Yanru thought for a while and suddenly raised her eyes to ask. Her question was very abrupt. Even Xiao Wanru did not expect that Xiao Yanru would suddenly ask this question. Her watery eyes flickered, and there was a faint smile at the bottom of her eyes. Concubine Lan is the Emperor's concubine. It's not up to us to decide whether we are close to her or not. What's more, our prince is the Emperor's nephew after all. It's better to avoid some things. Doesn't the Emperor mean that cousin can also? Xiao Yanru said unconvinced. Xiao Wanru's face turned cold, and she directly interrupted her. Miss Qin, although this is Prince Chen's mansion, not the Imperial Palace, there are some things that you can't say. If you are careless and implicate Concubine Lan, it won't be good. Miss Qin, you don't want anything to happen to Concubine Lan, right? Cousin-in-law, I didn't mean that. I just said that the Emperor has already regarded cousin as a prince, didn't he? Xiao Yanru's words were stopped. She calmed down and wisely changed her words. From what she had seen in the past few days, she felt that her cousin-in-law was a smart person. She was not only a smart person but also a smart person with good judgment. She couldn't see the advantages of her cousin, and she shouldn't alienate concubine Lan at this time. For a moment, she couldn't figure out what Princess Chen meant. Miss Qin. Xiao Wanru's eyes fell on Xiao Yinru's face and she said with a faint look in her eyes, I don't care why you are in the capital city, but no matter what, you'd better be a low-key young lady. Recently, the princess of the Su Kingdom has also come, and I'm afraid that the capital city will not be peaceful. Miss Qin, please tell this to concubine Lan and tell her to be careful. Cousin-in-law. The look on Xiao Yinru's face changed, and she became a little angry and cold. Cousin-in-law, do you know? Miss Qin, I don't want to know, nor do I want to hear. If you think of yourself as Prince Chen's cousin, just live here quietly, don't think about anything, and don't ask about anything. If there is a chance in the future, I will definitely send you a wedding gift and let you get married in a grand way. Xiao Wanru said. She meant that she promised Prince Chen's mansion that she would find a good marriage for Xiao Yenru, but Chu Luchen would never marry Xiao Yenru. Even though Xiao Yenru was concubine Lan's niece and used to be the empress, they had disappeared at this time. At this time, what she should do was to keep a low profile. Xiao Yenru's face turned red. She was angry and ashamed, and she said unwillingly, Cousin-in-law, does cousin know what you said? Of course, your highness knows. My meaning is your highness's meaning. If your highness has other intentions, won't my cousin specially come to see you after living here for so long? Xiao Wanru said bluntly. No matter what Xiao Yenru's intention was, she would not let Xiao Yenru ruin it. At least, she couldn't ruin it in Prince Chen's mansion. Xiao Yenru glared at Xiao Wanru. Although she called Xiao Wanru cousin-in-law, she was actually older than Xiao Wanru and slender than ordinary girls. In terms of height, she could suppress Xiao Wanru in an imposing manner. However, Xiao Wanru just looked at her leisurely with a slight smile and a casual smile, as if she didn't take her anger seriously at all. Finally, Xiao Yenru was defeated and said angrily, Cousin-in-law, do you know what I have in my hand? No matter what you have, your highness won't care. Miss Qin, just do whatever you want. Xiao Wanru said calmly, as if she had expected that Xiao Yenru would say so. If Xiao Yenru had no trump card at all, she would not have entered Prince Chen's mansion. After all, Chu Luchen had never given face to concubine Lan, let alone a cousin from many years ago. I'll go to my cousin later. He will be willing to see what I have in my hand. Xiao Yenru said unhappily. She was really unconvinced. It was not that she wanted to enter Prince Chen's mansion, but that she had to do so. In order to avoid making Xiao Wanru unhappy, she even deliberately stayed far away from her cousin. She didn't expect that Xiao Wanru was so arrogant that she even pushed her away for her own benefit. She had done so much in vain. You can't go to His Highness's place at will. If you go there, I'll send someone to inform him in advance. It's not certain when His Highness will see you. If Miss Qin wants to bump into him, I won't be able to control what will happen at that time. Xiao Wanru said softly. Compared with Xiao Yenru, who was annoyed, she was so calm that there was no ripple in her heart, but it made people feel that she knew everything. Xiao Yenru's watery eyes under her long eyelashes looked soft, but there was an unknown sharpness in them. No matter what Qin Yuan or concubine Lan meant, they would definitely take the initiative to say something when they were forced to do so. Xiao Yenru didn't seem to come here just for the position of Prince Chen's wife. She hoped that they would express their intentions clearly and didn't want something to be ruined because of their insincerity. She had never doubted the fact that concubine Lan was devoted to Chu Luchen. However, there were many things in this world that could be done with good intentions. It was the most beneficial way to force Xiao Yenru to reveal her trump card first. She believed that no matter what trump card they had, Chu Luchen would be able to deal with it well. Now the time was just right, so she would give them another push. Hearing Xiao Wanru's words, Xiao Yenru felt very aggrieved and uncomfortable. It seemed that she had hit Qin Yuan hard but failed to knock Qin Yuan down. Instead, she spat out a mouthful of blood. Her aunt had told her not to act rashly. Then I'll have to trouble you, cousin-in-law. Xiao Yenru said coldly. She couldn't bear it anymore and had to make it clear to her cousin that she was his helper. If Xiao Wanru didn't let her be his helper, she wouldn't be a qualified Princess Qin. She didn't have to take a fancy to the position of Princess Qin, but if Xiao Wanru was really not suitable for her, she would be willing to take the position. With this idea in mind, Xiao Yinru returned to her courtyard, sat on the stone bench in her courtyard, and quietly waited for the news from Chu Luchen. Even if her cousin didn't like her, he would definitely send someone to invite her when he heard that she had something to see him. However, things went beyond her imagination. After waiting for a long time, she didn't see anyone come. When she was about to send someone over, she saw Xiao Xuanzi, the eunuch beside Chu Luchen, come in. "Miss Qin, our master invites you over," Xiao Xuanzi said with a smile. "Cousin, did you just find out? Princess Qin said that she would pass on the message for me to meet you." Xiao Yinru stood up discontentedly and pulled a thin crease at the corner of her skirt. "The princess naturally sent Miss Qin's words here early, but our master is very busy. At this time, he just took a rest for a while and remembered this matter, so he specially asked me to come here," Xiao Xuanzi said casually, and then turned his hand to the side. "Miss Qin, please come here. If you go late, our master might have something to do again, and I'm afraid he won't be able to talk to you." Of course, he meant that if she didn't go now, there was no need to go. Xiao Yinru's pink face turned livid with anger. What kind of people were around her cousin? They were all so insensible. She had to ask her cousin to take care of the people around him. Chapter 1158. Master, Miss Qin is still outside. Xiao Xuanzi looked out of the window downstairs. Qin Yin continued to stand still under the tree and stared at the two guards at the door. She had been standing there for so long, but she still didn't leave. Chu Luchen sat there casually, raised his head unhappily, and said coldly, "Let her come up." "Yes, I'll invite Miss Qin up right away." Xiao Xuanzi breathed a sigh of relief and hurried to the second floor. This Miss Qin was really stubborn. He said that his master was busy, but she insisted on seeing her. Now he finally saw her. Xiao Xuanzi was sure that even if he saw her, she would not be happy. His master could only tolerate a woman like the princess. Hearing that Chu Luchen let her in, Qin Yin breathed a sigh of relief. She was really worried that Chu Luchen would not see her. Since he saw her, everything would be easy. The servant girl was asked to stay, and Qin Yin followed Xiao Xuanzi to the second floor. When the door of the second floor was opened, Qin Yin subconsciously narrowed her eyes and saw the man leaning on the back of the wide chair inside. The handsome man raised his eyes as if he had a lot of feelings, but his words were extremely cold. "If there's nothing, don't bother me." "Cousin." Qin Yin stepped forward to greet him. Cousin, whatever it is the reason for you to live in my mansion. Now that you have moved in, there's no need to talk about this matter." Chu Luchen lowered his beautiful eyes, still looking at the booklet in his hand. "Cousin, I'm really your cousin." Qin Yin was a little anxious. Although she had been prepared before, concubine Lan had repeatedly told her that Prince Chen was not what she saw, so that she could not have delusions. Otherwise, she would die without a burial place. "So what?" Chu Luchen raised his eyebrows. Qin Yin didn't know what to say for a moment. Prince Chen in front of her was definitely more difficult to serve than Princess Chen. She had wanted to complain before, but now she had no intention of doing so. She could tell from Prince Chen's expression that he would not listen to her words. "Cousin, concubine Lan asked me to come?" Qin Yin said frustratedly. "This is not the Imperial Palace, but my Prince Chen's mansion," Chu Luchen said coldly. Qin Yin was stunned. She really didn't expect that concubine Lan had no deterrence to Prince Chen at all. "Cousin, concubine Lan cares about you wholeheartedly. Everything she has done is for you. How could you?" Inexplicably, Qin Yifang became agitated as she felt depressed. But in the next moment, the emotion was stirred. As if someone had splashed water on it, it immediately melted. If you have something to say, then say it. If there's nothing else, then leave. This king is very busy. Chu Luchen looked up at her impatiently, and then his eyes fell on the file in front of him, as if she stood here alone to trouble him. She was sent by concubine Lan. Qin Yin felt very aggrieved. Even though she thought that she was strong-willed, she couldn't help feeling aggrieved at this time. She really wanted to help him, not only because of concubine Lan, but also because of her family. How could Prince Chen ignore her like this? 10 minutes. Chu Liuchen's cold words came into her ears again, and Qin asked subconsciously, what? Chu Liuchen looked up at her as if he was looking at an idiot. Xiao Xuanzi reminded him in a low voice, my master means that you can talk, but only 10 minutes. If you want to say something, say it quickly. Don't be thrown out by my master. Xiao Xuanzi really didn't mean to scare her. Given his master's temperament, how could he allow an irrelevant person like her to waste such a long time? Qin felt so aggrieved that her eyes turned red. She looked up at Chu Liuchen and took a deep breath to suppress the grievance in her heart. It seemed that Prince Chen didn't have tender feelings for women. If she really cried, he might ask someone to throw her out directly. Cousin, the Qin family has a team of secret guards that can help you. Now I have this team with me. Concubine Lan brought me here because of this matter. Qin had to tell him what she wanted to do. After saying this, Qin became complacent and raised her head slightly. She was the only daughter of the current eldest daughter of the Qin family, and could be regarded as the last person of the lineal branch. Because there were no children, the last strength of the Qin family fell into her hands. At that time, when the Qin family became the Empress's family, it was not completely useless. Before the death of the former Empress, she asked them to preserve their strength. In fact, this secret guard was in the hands of the former Empress at the beginning. If her cousin knew that she had such a force in her hands, he would definitely think highly of her. So what? Chu Liuchen said coldly, without a trace of warmth in his voice and cold eyes. Does concubine Lan want to rely on a secret guard to succeed? Can't she? Qin was originally full of confidence. Because she had such a secret guard in her hands, she had always felt that she was different from other women. She would not risk her life for a man. She thought that she should become an empress who supported the emperor. Of course, she could also be a powerful concubine who could also be trusted by the emperor. But now she didn't understand what Chu Liuchen meant. She looked at Chu Liuchen in front of her in astonishment. Did he mean that he looked down on her strength? How could it be possible? Does your Qin's mansion want to rebel, or does concubine Lan want to succeed by herself? Chu Liuchen said. Qin hurriedly shook her head and said, Cousin, you misunderstood. Our Qin family has no ambition, and concubine Lan is just in the harem. She has no ambition either. Since you have no ambition, why do you need secret guards? Chu Liuchen curled his lips sarcastically, and a smile appeared on his handsome face. But such a smile fell into Qin's eyes and was cold. No, cousin, you need them. Qin didn't know what was wrong. Why was it different from what concubine Lan thought? She and concubine Lan were really kind. It was not that the Qin family had any ambition, and it was not that concubine Lan herself had any ambition. We all want to help you, cousin. Qin explained again. Do I look like I'm short of manpower? Chu Liuchen raised his eyebrows. But concubine Lan said that it would be better to give them to you and let them secretly protect you. Qin said uneasily. Give them to me? Chu Liuchen smiled and then reached out his hand to Qin. Since they are for me, just give me the token. Cousin, they are not for you. I can help you through me. Only through me can you provide help. Do you understand what I mean? Qin bit her lip and said, If they are for me, just give them to me. If they need an outsider, then get out. Chu Liuchen said bluntly, and there was more coldness in his eyes. No matter who they are, Prince Chen's mansion belongs to me. If an outsider wants to intervene, don't bother me. I don't care about the relationship between cousins. Cold sweat came out of Qin's forehead. She could be sure that these words were not to scare her. If her secret guards really appeared in Prince Chen's mansion, they would probably be killed. At that time, even if it was not a lose-lose situation, it would not benefit her at all. Cousin, my people are your people. How can you do this? Qin said angrily. Either hand over the token or leave. Chu Liuchen looked at her and smiled more and more coldly. There was a trace of malice on his handsome face, like the most gorgeous venomous snake leisurely sticking out its tongue. When he glanced at Qin, she trembled all over. After taking 2 steps back, she did not dare to stay any longer and hurriedly turned around and went downstairs. She had to discuss it with concubine Lan. Because of Prince Chen's attitude, she was at a loss for what to do. Shouldn't Prince Chen think highly of me when he knows that I have such a secret guard in my hands? Then he would become her right-hand man and have this secret guard be at her beck and call. She did not want to be a weak woman like Xiao Wanru, nor did she care how many women her cousin had. She was unique and indispensable to her cousin. She was destined to stand at the top with him hand in hand. She did not like a woman like Princess Chen. Such a woman would only drag her cousin down. How could she accompany her cousin to stand at the top? But now, she was driven out by her cousin without saying a word. How could Qinian not feel wronged? She returned to her residence and sat quietly. Thinking about what had happened during this period of time, she secretly gritted her teeth. Even if her cousin liked Princess Chen, so what? She was the most suitable woman to help him. She had to find an opportunity to go to the palace and talk to her aunt about it. Her aunt had the most say in the matter of the secret guard. Her aunt also said that she was Prince Chen's greatest help that day. Now she just needed her cousin to listen to her aunt. Thinking of this, she breathed a sigh of relief. She was waiting for the day to go to the palace to see her aunt. At this time, she could not act rashly, nor could she let the secret guard enter Prince Chen's mansion, lest it caused unnecessary trouble. Qin Yan waited quietly for Xiao Wanru to enter the palace. She would go to the palace with her to see concubine Lan. She had been wronged by Chu Luchen, and Qin Yan believed that concubine Lan would definitely help her. She even thought that it might be because of Princess Chen. Could it be that Princess Chen had said something slanderous in front of her cousin and made her cousin treat her so rudely? Thinking about it carefully, it was really possible. A woman like Princess Chen was really troublesome. She didn't know what was going on at present. At this time, she was still jealous of her. She had tried her best to avoid such a misunderstanding. A woman like her was better. She was capable enough, and she could tolerate her cousin having many women. She even didn't care if her cousin had a princess. She was the one who could do great things, and Princess Chen was a useless woman who held her back. Qin Yan thought that Xiao Wanru should go to the palace within 2 days. Seeing that Xiao Wanru had almost recovered, she needed to prepare something early to see concubine Lan. What Qin Yan didn't expect was that what she waited for was not the news that Xiao Wanru would go to the palace, but the news that Xiao Wanru would go to the princess's mansion to attend the banquet. At this time, the invitation had entered the gate of Prince Chen's mansion, and there was another thing with the invitation. End of this chapter. Chapter 1159. Changxing Grass. Xiao Wanru curiously picked up a few mediocre grasses in the box and asked, "What is Princess Yuan going to do?" Changxing grass, which had caused trouble many times before, almost killed her. What did Princess Yuan mean by sending it to her now? Of course, she wouldn't think that it was an unintentional coincidence. Chu Luchen looked at the Changxing grass in Xiao Wanru's hand lazily and said casually, "I asked Su State for it before." "What do you want these grasses for?" Xiao Wanru asked in confusion and waved the half-withered grass in her hand. It looked fresh, at least not completely withered. "I asked for it for my uncle, but Su State always said that they didn't have it and said that they should look for it carefully. It's not so easy to find this kind of grass in Su State. It can only be found in remote mountains and swamps where no one goes." "Then, Your Majesty, why do you want to find it?" Xiao Wanru blinked her watery eyelashes and asked hesitantly. "Of course, my uncle wants to find out what happened at that time. Everything is related to the Changxing grass. I don't know whether Su State sent the Changxing grass or someone else hooked up with Su State and found other Changxing grass. No matter which one it is, it's not a happy thing," Chu Luchen said. The dark robe he wore made his face look like a pearl. His eyes were extremely deep, and he didn't look as gentle as he used to be. At this time, he looked very similar to Xiao Wanru, with a hint of indifference, which added a little coldness to his eyebrows. Xiao Wanru thought for a moment. She was indeed involved in the matter at that time, but Chu Luchen took over later. She believed that she would not be involved again, but she was afraid that he would be involved. These things could be big or small. She had thought that it had been settled, but now it seemed that the emperor just restrained it for the time being. The envoy of Su State had an ulterior motive. Is the Changxing soothing grass going to be sent to the Imperial Palace? Xiao Wenru thought for a while and said, "Will it involve you?" "Don't worry. I won't be implicated in this matter. It was my uncle who asked me to ask for it from the Su Kingdom, not in the name of my uncle, but in my name. It's a personal relationship. If the Su Kingdom gave it to me readily, it means that my son-in-law didn't know about it. But if it didn't give it readily, there would be a problem." Chu Luchun smiled. His face became gentle, and his eyes became moist. Xiao Wenru shook the Changxing grass in her hand and asked curiously, "In the current situation, is it cool or not?" "It's not very cool, but it doesn't seem to be related to my son-in-law. But it has a close relationship with my son-in-law. It should be someone close to my son-in-law," Chu Luchun said with a thoughtful look in his eyes. That day, before he left, he made this request to his son-in-law. At that time, Sigua hesitated for a moment. He originally wanted to agree, but at that time, Princess Yu Yen and Consort Li happened to be talking about something else. They asked about Princess Yu Yen after returning to the Empire, so this topic was put aside. When he left, he asked the envoy again, but the envoy said he didn't know. At that time, he was about to leave, so it was too late to ask. Moreover, he didn't ask for it in the name of the country, but in his personal name. In fact, he could give it or not. He had thought that the emperor was going to pretend to be deaf and dumb, but he didn't expect that he sent it to him through Princess Yu Yen. The meaning of it was really true. It was the first grade. These Changxing grass seemed to be given by Princess Yu Yen. Of course, the purpose was to make friends with Chu Luchun. Princess Yu Yen was just a princess in the Imperial harem. Although she was familiar with Changxing grass, she would never collect it. But if she didn't, it must be Consort Li. When the emperor was about to talk about it that day, they changed the topic, so that the topic was left unsettled. "Are you going to attend this party?" Xiao Wenru asked with a smile, with a hint of understanding in her eyes. "Of course. Since Princess Yu Yen is so sincere, how can I not go to join in the fun?" Chu Luchun said with a meaningful smile. Consort Li, this woman was very suspicious. If she was really Consort Li, who would she collude with? The matter of Changxing grass might be true or false, and he also had a hand in it, but some things were true. Someone did secretly use Changxing grass. The coachman of Prince Zhou's mansion did use Changxing grass. He had checked and found that those Changxing grass didn't come from the national treasury, although the Changxing grass in the national treasury was also gone. The same invitation card also appeared in front of Chu Liuchun's desk. Looking at the extremely beautifully decorated invitation card, Chu Luchun raised his head and looked at Princess Yu Yen opposite him. "Thank you for coming here specially, Princess. I will be there." "Thank you, Your Highness, for supporting us. It's the first time I come to your Dongsong Kingdom, so the first thing I want to do is to invite you princes. I have received a clear message from Your Highness, and I don't know if the other princes will also give us face," Princess Yu Yen said with a smile. She was dressed very beautifully today, with a kind of inadvertent charm. A peacock dress with complicated patterns fell to the ground. On the light gray coat, the armband was winding and hung down from the arm, swaying beautifully. Even when she didn't walk, she looked delicate and charming. The belt of the same color was tied around her slender waist, which showed her slender waist and plump breasts. Even this figure made people's heart beat faster. Moreover, she had a charming eyebrow. A pair of beautiful eyes seemed to fall on Chu Liuchun's face with affection, and she smiled sweetly. "Your Highness, don't you want to personally send it to the other princes' mansions?" Chu Luchun was moved and asked with a smile. He scratched his finger on the invitation card, which was quite meaningful. "No, Prince Zhou's mansion asked Infanta Yuan, and she said that she would invite them. Princess Chen promised Big Sister before, so she should come together. As for Prince Xian, Big Sister invited him, but I don't know if it's okay, so I came to Prince Zhou's mansion. I was worried that Prince Xian would give me the cold shoulder, but fortunately, Prince Xian didn't embarrass me." Princess Yu Yen had a lucky look on her face as she patted her chest. Chu Liuchun's eyes moved down unconsciously, and then he slowly raised his head. "I'm really sorry that Your Highness came to Dongsong Kingdom in person. Originally, I should have invited you, but I didn't expect that Your Highness took the initiative." "Your Highness, you're too polite." Princess Yuyen said in a sweet voice. I'm not polite. Chu Luchen shook his hand and said, I really wanted to do that, but I have no wife in my mansion, so I was embarrassed to invite you two princesses. Chu Luchen frowned slightly when he said this, and it seemed that he was a little unhappy to talk about this topic. Your Highness, you're too polite. We're very grateful for your kindness. Prince, you didn't get married, but Prince Chen, the third prince, got married. I think it's very strange. Is this the custom of your country? Princess Yuyen asked curiously, and she moved closer to Chu Luchen. Her corset was originally high, and the collar was neither high nor low, which was very appropriate. But when she moved closer, a trace of snow-white skin could be seen, which was very attractive. This time, Chu Luchen seemed to not see her temptation, but just shook his head with a wry smile, leaned back, and kept a distance from Princess Yuyen. Of course, we should also be brothers first, but the third brother's situation is special. He was not in good health at that time, and Imperial grandmother was afraid of him. So she let him get married early. But His Royal Highness Wang is the eldest son of the Emperor. Princess Yuyen said discontentedly on behalf of Chu Luchen, first come, first served. We can't mess up the ethics. If we change it at will, many things in the world will be messed up. His words had a hidden meaning. Many things? For example, the matter of Chu Luchen marrying a wife first could also be said to be a matter of the emperor passing the throne to his eldest son, which could also be based on the law. Princess Yuyen thinks that everything should be based on first come, first served? Chu Lu raised his eyebrows and laughed. He liked this saying. Of course. Princess Yuyen said. Her beautiful eyes fell on Chu Lu's face. I heard that your Highness's princess is Prime Minister Zhang's daughter. I wonder how beautiful she is. I've already sent someone to invite her. I wonder if she'll come? Can your Highness send someone to talk to her and ask her to give me face? I can't help you with this. Chu Lu said awkwardly. But could it be that Miss Zhang is not going to give His Royal Highness face? Princess Yuyen was surprised and looked at Chu Lu with bright eyes. I'm not very familiar with Miss Zhang. I've only met her twice. Even if I meet her, I don't have much to say. Chu Lu frowned. It was obvious that he was a little unhappy. Princess Yuyen's heart skipped a beat. She was overjoyed. It seemed that the relationship between Miss Zhang and the king was very ordinary. That was great. She thought so in her heart, but didn't show it on her face. She was even more surprised. Your Highness, aren't you going to get married soon? Don't tell me you haven't been in contact until now. Where did this relationship come from? Parents' orders and matchmakers' words. Chu Lu said implicitly. I know that Eastern Song Kingdom advocates this kind of marriage, but I heard that the prince's marriage has to be satisfied. Is your Royal Highness satisfied? Princess Yuyen said. She looked at Chu Lu with concern, and her eyes were full of charm. Princess Yuyen herself was extremely beautiful and could be considered a rare beauty. Moreover, her overflowing seductive appearance made it difficult for any man to feel pity for her. However, Princess Yuyen was not as beautiful as Xiao Yanru. Xiao Yanru would sometimes show her so-called seduction. Compared with Princess Yuyen's seduction, Xiao Yanru's desire was of a higher level. Therefore, Chu Lu understood Princess Yuyen's intention at a glance. However, this was a good thing for him. If Princess Yuyen was willing to be a concubine, he didn't mind letting her enter the prince's mansion. The Su kingdom was a help. This was also the reason why he followed Princess Yuyen's words. As for Zhang Qilan, he was really not very satisfied. There were two specific reasons. Chapter 1160. There were two reasons why Chu Lu was dissatisfied with Zhang Qilan. The first reason was Prime Minister Zhang's attitude. Even if Zhang Qilan was to be his wife, Prime Minister Zhang's attitude seemed to be impartial and fair in the court. Even if Chu Lu wanted to be closer to him, he always laughed it off and treated him the same as before. This made Chu Lu, who was anxious, feel very uncomfortable. The second reason was that Zhang Qilan was not as beautiful as Xiao Yanru. Chu Lu liked Xiao Yanru at the beginning. Although Zhang Qilan was good-looking, she was still much worse than Xiao Yanru. It was concubine's idea to choose Zhang Qilan. Chu Lu was not very satisfied. However, he also knew that Zhang Qilan was the best at present, but he always felt that it was not enough. If he could get another help, it would also be a benefit for him. If Princess Yuyan took the initiative to come to him, he really would not reject her. Between the two of them, one was sentimental and the other was righteous. Although Chu Lu had always behaved like a gentleman and did not look at Princess Yuyan's high chest, his expression was a little more gentle than before, revealing some faintly discernible affection. Princess Yuyan was very satisfied. Although Chu Lu did not say anything, when she was in the Su Kingdom, she was flattered by many young men, so she could still see at a glance whether there was affection or not. The more they talked, the more agreeable and affectionate they became. Finally, Princess Yuyan saw that it was getting late and got up reluctantly. There was no mistress in the prince's mansion now, so it was extremely inappropriate for her to stay for dinner. Chu Lu personally sent her to the door. According to her identity as the princess of the Su Kingdom, he should send her off. After Princess Yuyan's carriage left, he slowly turned back to the mansion with a mocking smile on his face. A princess of a small foreign country took the initiative to come to him. It was Chu Qing who would be embarrassed, so he would not refuse her. As for the objection of the Zhang mansion, let them find the Su Kingdom. If Prime Minister Zhang did not give him some practical benefits, he would quietly watch the fight between Princess Yuyan and Zhang Qilan. Princess Yu Tao and Princess Yuyan did not invite many people, but they were all rich and noble and they were all young people. This could be counted as the first friendly contact between the royal families of the Su Kingdom and the Eastern Song Kingdom. There weren't many people, and the princess's mansion didn't have a male master, so they didn't receive them separately. According to Princess Yu Yan's words, in her Su Kingdom, as long as the gathering of the children of the nobility was small, there was no need to split them into two places. When eating, they could just use a screen to separate them. When enjoying the scenery, they could walk together. There were only a few kings among the men who came today. They were all princes, all of them exceptionally respected. As for the womenfolk, they were more or less related to these princes and were not outsiders. When the carriage of Prince Chen's mansion entered the princess mansion, Princess Yuyan had already been waiting there. Seeing Xiao Wanru get off the carriage alone, she deliberately looked back with a teasing smile. Seeing that no one got off the carriage, she asked with a teasing smile, "Is there something wrong with Prince Chen today that prevents him from coming?" "Your Highness will come over later," Xiao Wanru said softly. "I thought Prince Chen wouldn't come." "In that case, please come in, Your Highness," Princess Yuyan said affectionately. She reached out and seemed to want to hold Xiao Wanru's hand. Xiao Wanru happened to turn to the side and said a few words to Yu Jie, cleverly avoiding her hand. A trace of anger flashed across Princess Yuyan's face, but she immediately hid it in her eyes. She put down her hand and said with a smile, "Among the misses who came today, only Your Highness has the highest status. I can't trouble Your Highness to introduce them one by one." Although Xiao Wanru was young, her status was indeed the highest. Before Infanta Yuan and Zhang Qilan married the two princes, their status couldn't compare with Xiao Wanru. It could be said that this request was not too much. "I'm afraid I have to disappoint the two princesses. I don't know many people. Since I married Prince Chen, I have been in poor health. I haven't seen many of the noble misses in the capital city. Princess Yuyan, you can ask Infanta Yuan and for help. She has a noble status and has been living in the capital city for a long time. She has a good relationship with Princess Yuyan." Xiao Wanru refused with a smile. She would not intervene in today's banquet. If she intervened, it would be difficult to explain some things in the future. In any case, Princess Yuyan was not the kind of person who would settle down. She was just an ordinary guest. Infanta Yuan is good, but compared with Princess Chen, her status is a little low. Princess Yuyan was very dissatisfied, but she didn't show it on her face. Infanta Yuan is the future Princess Zhou. She has a noble status. Even if she is not the future Princess Zhou, she is also the Infanta of the country. Moreover, I heard that she and Princess Yuyan get along well, Xiao Wanru said. She implied that Infanta Yuan and Princess Yuyan had a close relationship. Instead of letting Infanta Yuan, who was familiar with the daughters of aristocratic families in the capital city, take charge, she who didn't know anything, which made people feel suspicious. Princess Yuyan didn't expect Xiao Wanru to be so vigilant, and her face was a little stiff. Fortunately, Infanta Yuan had reminded her about this before. She didn't believe it before, thinking that Xiao Wanru would always give face to the Su kingdom, and this reason was also appropriate. Suppressing the heat in her heart, Princess Yuyan still said with a regretful smile, "In this case, I can only forget it. I originally thought that Princess Chen's status was the most noble." While talking, the two of them had entered the garden. This residence was prepared when it was heard that a princess was going to marry into the Su kingdom. The princess of the Su kingdom only lived here temporarily. No matter which prince's mansion she married in the future, this place would be useless. Therefore, the place was moderate and not particularly large. Of course, it couldn't be compared with an ordinary prince's mansion. This was just an empty house. After a little cleaning, the two princesses moved in. The garden was quite exquisite. Some of the flowers and plants in it seemed to be newly planted, but even so, they were well planted. Among the lush flowers, there were pieces of flowers embellished from time to time. "Princess Chin, take a walk first. I have to pick up the other misses," Princess Yu Yen said with a smile. "From here, there will be refreshments along the way. If Princess Chin is tired, you can rest in the pavilion by the roadside and have some tea and snacks. I will bring the other young ladies over in a while." The direction that Princess Yu Yen pointed to did not seem to be the main road of the garden. It was a winding path leading to a place with excellent scenery. Looking from a distance, the pavilions and terraces were very elegant. "Where is Princess Yutao?" Xiao Wanru did not move immediately, but asked with a smile. "Big sister went to the outer court just now. There should be a prince coming. Today, I will pick up the womenfolk in the inner court. Big sister will pick up the ones in the outer court and bring them all here later," Princess Yu Yen explained with a smile. Since there was no male master, the two princesses divided the work. It was indeed appropriate for Princess Yutao to pick up the princes. Princess Yutao was considered a prince in the Su kingdom and could inherit the throne in the future. Princess Chin is Fong Exine. Miss Zhang also came before. If Princess Chin walked faster, she might have met Miss Zhang. Unfortunately, I met Miss Zhang. I heard that Miss Zhang and Princess Chin are close friends. Princess Yu Yen pointed forward with a smile and said, "She came a little earlier than Princess Chin. She should be not far ahead." At this point, it was inappropriate for Xiao Wanru to hold Princess Yu Yen's hand anymore. She nodded with a smile, said goodbye to Princess Yu Yen with a smile, and walked straight to the flowers and trees with the two servant girls. Not long after they walked, they met a servant girl in the mansion. Seeing Xiao Wanru coming over, she hurriedly stepped aside and bowed respectfully. Seeing her remove the teacup, Xiao Wanru stopped and asked, "Who is in front?" The teacup had obviously just been used. Since it was removed, it meant that the person who had used it had left. The miss of Prime Minister Zhang's mansion was just resting in a pavilion in front. The servant girl answered in a low voice. Xiao Wanru waved her hand, asked the servant girl to leave, and continued to walk forward with Yu Jie and Qing. After walking for a while, she saw a pavilion on the side of the path. The silk draped down, leaving only one side facing the road. Through the fluttering silk, she could see a plate of fruits and tea on the stone table. But there was no one serving outside the pavilion. It should be the servant girl who had left just now who was serving here. This place was extremely quiet. Birds chirped a few times, making the scenery a little more lively. "Your Highness, look, there are bird cages above." With her sharp eyes, the green girl immediately caught sight of the two bird cages hanging on the edge of the pavilion. A few colorful birds were jumping around in the cages, raising their heads and chirping from time to time, which made them look really cute. Xiao Wanru walked towards the pavilion. It was indeed an excellent place where she could enjoy birds and have a rest. The journey was neither short nor long, and she didn't see anyone around her. It was good to have a rest here. After entering the pavilion, she found that all the utensils inside were clean. Even if someone had used it before, the tea set had been changed. Yu Jie reached out to touch the teapot placed in the middle, which was very hot. She picked up the empty cup placed on one side and poured a cup for Xiao Wanru. The tea was fragrant, and the tea leaves used were also good. It could be seen that it was indeed carefully arranged. Not far away, there was a corner of the courtyard that was raised high. Xiao Wanru didn't know where it was. Because she couldn't see it clearly, it made her have some different emotions. There were a few clusters of flowers outside the pavilion. The flower branches were vines, which didn't look like any kind of flower Xiao Wanru had ever seen. The vines were fluttering, dotted with sporadic flowers, but they still looked green. They didn't look like the delicate flowers in the capital city. However, judging from the sharp thorns on the flower branches, she knew that this kind of flower should be very vigorous. The flower was small, but the vines were strong. Your Highness, this kind of flower seems to grow in the mountains. When I was in the nunnery, I sometimes went to the mountains with Mingqiu nun to pick herbs. Such small flowers may grow in the extremely lush vines. At that time, I felt that they were very beautiful, more beautiful than the flowers in the garden. Yujie walked to the entrance of the pavilion, squatted down and looked at it for a while, and said to Xiao Wanru with a smile. She liked this kind of flower. Before she followed Xiao Wanru, she was a wild girl raised in the mountains. This kind of flower was her favorite. Occasionally, she would pick a few and put them in her hair. She was not a bald nun, but a young girl. Even if she had lived in the nunnery all the time, she still cared about beauty. I'll pick one and take it back to show Mingqiu nun. It may be useful. Chapter 1161. After saying that, Yujie reached out to pick them. She had never seen this kind of vines before, and they might have medicinal value. She would pick a flower and show it to Mingqiu nun. She had done this many times in the past, and the possibility was very high. Yujie thought that the medicinal value was much better than the ornamental value. Hearing her words, Xiao Wanru also looked at these vines. She lifted the corner of her dress and walked over. She didn't notice it at first, but now she found that these vines were really unusual. She had never seen them before, and they didn't seem to be liked by Princess Yuyen or Princess Yutao. Even she didn't care about them before. Only Yujie cared about them because she came from the mountains and liked this kind of wild flowers. They were not very beautiful and couldn't be compared with those flowers for ornamental purposes, which were as beautiful as clouds. If Yujie didn't mention them, she wouldn't care about such small flowers at all. Where did Princess Yuyen and Princess Yutao find such flowers? Are they newly transplanted? The green leaves were so lush that she couldn't see the bottom. Yujie carefully reached out to pluck them and nodded. They are indeed newly transplanted. This garden was just moved in by the two princesses, and many flowers and plants have not been transplanted for a long time. Qing also came over and looked through the branches and leaves that Yujie had just plucked and said, "This one was transplanted at a different time, and it hasn't fully come to life yet. It should be transplanted in the past few days." Along the way, there were some flowers and plants that were new, but at least they were alive. They were at least 10 days old. The flowers on them were very energetic and did not look wilted at all. Only this cluster of flowers in front of him looked weak and dispirited. If she didn't look carefully, she wouldn't be able to see it for a while. Yujie reached out to pluck the flowers again. Just when she was about to do so, Xiao Wanru came over. There were a lot of flowers and plants in the garden, and there was a fragrance of flowers along the way. The flowers in front of her had almost no fragrance, but Xiao Wanru inexplicably felt a little strange. This cluster of flowers gave her a very strange feeling. It was as if she had forgotten something. He looked left and right, then up and down. There was nothing wrong. There was only the sound of birds chirping in his ears. It was very elegant, just like an ordinary resting pavilion. The fragrance of tea rose in spirals, the fragrance of flowers wafted in waves, and the chirping of birds rang in the ears. No matter how one looked at it, it was pleasing to the eye. Looking at the location of the pavilion again, it was not bad. On one side was a rockery, and on the other side was a small lake. The lake was full of green lotuses, and a few of them had already sprouted. The pink flower buds fell among the green leaves, embellishing the elegant and beautiful scenery. It was a good place for people to admire the flowers and scenery. "Let's go." Xiao Wanru frowned slightly and said, feeling inexplicably uneasy. "Your Highness, it's nice here. Why don't you take a rest?" Yu Jie squatted on the ground, looked up at Xiao Wanru and said. She had just picked a flower in her hand. Qing also looked at Xiao Wanru in surprise. She didn't understand why Xiao Wanru suddenly wanted to leave at this time. I think it's too quiet here, and it seems a little hidden. Before Xiao Wanru finished her words, she saw the person coming from the corner of her eyes and immediately stopped talking. After turning the corner of the rockery, Chu Luyue appeared. He came from the side of the pavilion and only saw that there was someone in the pavilion, but he didn't notice who it was. He strode over with the little eunuch and turned to the pavilion. When he turned to the pavilion, he seemed to be stunned when he saw Xiao Wanru in the pavilion. Princess Qin? Greetings, Your Highness. Since Xiao Wanru saw him, she naturally couldn't be rude. She took a step forward and saluted first. No, was Princess Qin here just now? Chu Liyue's eyes fell on Xiao Wanru's face. He saw that she was half-turned. From his angle, he could only see her side face. Her side face was a little gentle and respectful, but even if it was just a side face, it made people unable to ignore her beauty. Her delicate facial features and dazzling lip color made people have endless imagination even if she didn't wear anything. Originally, he thought it was Zhang Qilan here, but he didn't expect it to be Xiao Wanru. Why was she looking for him? He didn't expect it to be her before, and he knew that he should leave at this time. However, when he saw her as delicate as a flower, he didn't want to leave for a moment. I'm tired, so I'll take a rest here for a while. Xiao Wanru stood up and explained. Chu Liyue replied with a low, in a non-committal manner, strode into the pavilion, and sat down on the stone bench. The little eunuch beside him hurriedly stepped forward to pour a cup of tea for him, and then stepped aside. Chu Liyue took a sip and nodded. The tea was good. He looked up at Xiao Wanru, who was standing at the entrance of the pavilion, and pointed to the stone bench in front of him. Princess Qin, please sit down. Since she asked him to come here for something, why was she so reserved now? Was it because there were many people here? Chu Liyue looked at the two maids she brought, and then looked at the little eunuch with him. He waved his hand, and the little eunuch tactfully retreated to the entrance of the pavilion and stood with Yu Jie and Qing. Xiao Wanru hesitated for a moment, but at this time, she couldn't leave without saying anything. She walked up to Chu Liyue and said, Prince Yu, if you're tired, you can take a rest. It's almost time for me to rest, so I'll leave. Princess Qin, are you leaving? Chu Liyue played with the teacup in his hand, and his eyes fell on Xiao Wanru. There were no outsiders here, so he could look at her openly. She was dressed in a very simple lavender dress, which was divided into 8 pieces and slightly tied at the waist. There was only a high hairpin on her black hair, and a few beads hanging down were not big, but they made her look more delicate than a flower. It seemed that no matter when she appeared in front of others, she was not dressed up in a fancy way. Chu Liyue, who had seen her several times, knew that such a lip color should be her natural color without any makeup. When such a red color fell on her lips, even if she didn't speak or smile, it made his heart itch. He really wanted to kiss the corners of her lips to see if the bright color was very soft and beautiful. His breathing inexplicably quickened. I've already had a good rest, so I won't disturb your rest, Xiao Wanru said indifferently. But even if she was indifferent, her bright lips were also full of charm in Chu Liyue's eyes. That kind of attitude of welcoming and rejecting was more like what Xiao Yinru had done in the past. Sure enough, they were sisters of the same mansion. Chu Liyue smiled. Even if they didn't grow up together, they still wanted to imitate each other's behavior at this time. The feeling of blending in their bones was something that others couldn't imitate. Fortunately, he had always been very used to Xiao Yinru's behavior and knew how to deal with it. Didn't it mean that she had to maintain a woman's modesty since she wanted to save face? If it was another woman, he wouldn't have the heart to chat with her, nor would he have the heart to make her happy. But if it was Xiao Wanru, he really didn't mind making her happy. He really didn't mind making her happy, so that she could not only save face but also maintain her modesty. Princess Qin, you don't have to rush there. Third brother will come over in a while. Sit down first, and you happen to go back with him later, Chu Liyue said gently with a handsome smile. Thank you for your kindness, Your Highness, but Miss Zhang is waiting for me in front. Xiao Wanru didn't want to stay with Chu Liyue, so she said. Was Zhang Qilan in front? Chu Luiwei was unhappy. He just came all the way here and didn't meet Zhang Qilan at all. Now he saw Xiao Wanru, who called him over under the guise of Zhang Qilan. What did she mean now? After calling him over, she insisted on leaving, as if he wanted to force her to do something. The impatience in the bottom of his heart became more and more obvious. He didn't know whether it was because of the person's appearance or the attitude of the person in front of him. Even if he wanted to coax her, she should stop. Instead of acting coquettishly, "Princess Qin, you don't have to leave in a hurry. Miss Zhang will be here in a while." Miss Zhang will be here in a while? Xiao Wanru didn't understand and looked at Chu Luiwei in astonishment. A pair of beautiful eyes fell on Chu Luiwei. Her eyes were clear, but it also made the corners of her lips more attractive. Her long eyelashes fluttered twice, which made Chu Luiwei's heart beat rapidly. He stood up impatiently and walked to Xiao Wanru with his hands clasped behind his back. The wind blew and raised the hanging curtain, as well as Xiao Wanru's dress. The light purple and plain dress couldn't hide her beauty. This was the so-called national beauty of a peony. Compared with Xiao Yanru, she was more attractive. He involuntarily stretched out his hand. "Princess Qin, sit down and wait for a while. Someone will be here in a while." He came over so suddenly that when Xiao Wanru reacted, the two of them were already too close. Seeing him stretch out his hand, Xiao Wanru was so scared that she took a few steps back and almost fell. Fortunately, Qing, who was behind her, reacted quickly and reached out to help her, so that she didn't fall. Chu Luiwei didn't hold her hand, only her sleeve. "Prince Yu, please behave yourself." Xiao Wanru was furious. She pulled her sleeve back with force. Chu Luiwei looked at his empty hand and frowned more and more. He raised his eyes and said with cold eyes, "I want you to behave yourself. Since you invited me here, why do you look indifferent to me? In this case, you didn't have to send someone to invite me just now. You even dared to pretend to be Miss Zhang. Aren't you afraid that Miss Zhang will be angry if she knows it?" This kind of attitude of pretending to refuse was too much, which made Chu Luiwei angry. "I pretended to ask Miss Zhang to invite Prince Yu here?" Xiao Wanru was stunned for a long time before she reacted. Her eyes wandered around and she immediately knew that she might be plotted against by others. Not only herself, but also Chu Luiwei. She took a few steps back and went straight to the door of the pavilion. "Your Highness, you are wrong. I just came here and didn't ask you to come here. Maybe it was really Miss Zhang who asked me to come here. Your Highness, you misunderstood me." At this time, she already felt that something was wrong. Her eyes fell on Chu Luiwei's somewhat excited face. His originally handsome face seemed to be angry or something else at this time, and it actually turned red. He stared at her tightly. Seeing her retreat, he took a few steps forward and actually wanted to pull her again. Chu Luiwei's situation was not right. Chapter 1162. Chu Luiwei had always been calm. As the eldest son of the emperor, he always looked like a prince in front of others and was a little cold. How could there be such an agitated situation at this time? Even if he had been deceived to come here before, he should leave at this time instead of entangling with her. Xiao Wanru felt that it was not good. She was sure that someone must have seen this scene at this time. Who was it for? She took a few more steps back, and this time she decisively left the pavilion. Qing and Yu Jie, the two maids, stood in front of her. "Your Highness, I'm afraid that you have fallen into someone's trap. I didn't invite you here, and it's impossible for me to invite you here, let alone in the name of Miss Zhang. Not to mention that I don't know where you are, we have nothing to do with each other before, so it's impossible for me to find you." Xiao Wanru raised her eyes and reminded Chu Luiwei with cold eyes. In the past, Chu Luiwei could listen to her words and would leave immediately. But now Chu Luiwei, who was dominated by inexplicable anger, was very angry. He thought that Xiao Wanru was playing hard to get, and she went too far. He took a few steps forward and chased after her. He pulled away Yu Jie, who was an eyesore, and was about to reach out to pull Xiao Wanru, who was hiding behind the maid. His eyes were burning with anger. "Princess Qin, what you said is really good. It seems that I came here uninvited. It is Princess Qin who asked me to come here and said that she had something to say." Chu Luiwei became more and more annoyed. His hand was blocked by Qin, and he wanted to reach out again. His eyes were burning with anger and excitement. His eyes were fixed on Xiao Wanru's cherry lips, as if they could make him feel at ease. Xiao Wanru didn't expect that Chu Luiyue would lose his mind like this. After retreating again and again, she suddenly stood still and said, "Your Highness, don't you feel strange? Why is Prince Yu, who has always been calm, so angry? Could it be that he was drugged?" She locked Chu Luiyue with her cold eyes without a trace of warmth, which even made Chu Luiyue see a little sarcasm. The inexplicable anger in his heart grew stronger, and he had a feeling of rushing over and grabbing Xiao Wanru. "Prince!" Xiao Qizi, who was waiting outside, finally felt that something was wrong. He took out something from his bosom, took 2 steps forward, and reached out to pull Chu Luiyue. He didn't know what was in his hand. After putting it in Chu Luiyue's palm, Chu Luiyue was smart and suddenly stopped, with an uncertain look on his face. Seeing him calm down a little, Xiao Wanru said coldly, "Your Highness, I'm afraid that you have been plotted against. At this time, someone must have seen this scene. If you come closer, I'm afraid that you can't bear the consequences." Chu Luiyue's face was still slightly red, and his eyes were gloomy. He took a deep breath to calm down the irritation in his heart. There was a piece of cold jade in his hand, and when he held it, his palm felt cold. He had put it in Xiao Qizi's place, for fear that he would do something he regretted when he was restless. Chu Luiyue felt the coldness at the bottom of his hand, the coldness at the bottom of Xiao Wanru's eyes, and Xiao Wanru kept retreating. He finally felt that something was wrong. He was very impulsive just now, which was not like him in the past. He raised his eyes to look around. The 2 of them, one retreating and the other chasing, had retreated to the rockery. Half of his vision was blocked by the rockery, while the other half could only see the tall eaves of the courtyard, the shade of the trees and the flowers. It didn't mean that others couldn't see him. She reached out to touch her burning forehead, waved to Xiao Wanru, and said with difficulty, "Princess Chen, please go back." Xiao Wanru nodded, turned around and left with the 2 maids. No matter what, it was not a place to stay for a long time. The problem must be with the cluster of flowers at the door. She clearly saw that when Chu Luiyue came, he was obviously normal. Later, he became abnormal and became more and more angry. There were many things in the barren land that she did not know, and even Mingqiu Nun might not know. If this thing was useless, Princess Yuyan would not have placed it here. It was just an ordinary small flower for viewing. Princess Yuyan would not spend so much effort to plant it. However, there was no evidence for this kind of thing. There were many things in the Su country that Dongcang did not know. But it was very strange that she did not fall for it. Even the 2 maids and the little eunuch did not fall for it. Only Chu Luiyue was there. It seemed that Chu Luiyue should have drunk something, smelled something, or taken something before he came. She should check from Chu Luiyue. The pavilion was facing this pavilion. Zhang Qilan and Infanta Yuan and sat on it, drinking tea, while looking at the scenery. The scenery was good. Although it was not big, it was elegant. There were also some things that were heard to be brought from the Su country, which had never been seen in the Dongcang country. Zhang Qilan was very curious. She half leaned against the fence, talking to Infanta Yuan, and while enjoying the scenery. It was a coincidence that she met Infanta Yuan. She was originally wandering inside alone with her maid. In the past, she and Infanta Yuan were not very familiar with each other. Now that they met, she was embarrassed to refuse to go with them. Both of them were going to marry into the royal family. Zhang Qilan married into Prince Yu's mansion first, and then Infanta Yuan. In the future, they would still be sisters-in-law, so it was impossible for them to ignore each other. After enjoying the scenery for a while, they went upstairs. Both of them leaned against the fence by the window, chatting while enjoying the scenery. Suddenly, Xiao Wanru appeared in Zhang Qilan's sight. Seeing her appear in the pavilion with 2 maids, Zhang Qilan frowned quietly. Since she heard the rumors about Prince Yu and Xiao Wanru, she disliked Xiao Wanru from the bottom of her heart. She had thought that Xiao Wanru was a very good and gentle girl before, but now she felt that Xiao Wanru was actually pretending. She had known Prince Yu for a long time, and they even had affection for each other. Prince Yu even went to the Empress to propose to her in person. If it weren't for Prince Qin, Xiao Wanru would be Prince Yu's wife now. Then what was she? Was she the one who married casually because he couldn't marry the woman he loved? In the past, she had heard that Prince Yu liked the first Miss Xiao, but no matter how much he liked her, she had never heard that Prince Yu formally went to the Empress to propose to her. It could be seen that it was not true. Only Xiao Wanru was the woman that Prince Yu really wanted to marry. Because of this, Zhang Qilan felt very uncomfortable in her heart. Xiao Wanru was injured. She was originally going to visit her, but after hearing such a rumor, she didn't want to go. Later, at the Empress Dowager's birthday banquet in the palace, she thought that she had to go to see for the sake of her reputation, but inexplicably hid behind the small tent. Seeing that Prince Zhou didn't go, but Prince Yu went to check the injury in person, she was even more jealous. Even now, she still couldn't let go of Xiao Wanru. What did Xiao Wanru mean? She still seduced Prince Yu at this time. Did she want to seduce Prince Yu all the time? Sure enough, she was a woman from a small place. She didn't know that a woman should be dignified and decent, and should be virtuous. Since she had married Prince Qin, she should live a good life and shouldn't keep an ambiguous relationship with Prince Yu. In Zhang Qilan's opinion, the reason why Prince Yu couldn't forget Xiao Wanru must be that Xiao Wanru was fickle. Thinking of such a woman, who she used to regard as a real friend, Zhang Qilan felt sick. She shouldn't have looked up to Xiao Wanru at the beginning, but now she hated her more and more. What's wrong? Did you see anything good? Infanta Yunlin asked with a smile, as if she found that Zhang Qilan was in a daze. Zhang Qilan, who was absent-minded, didn't see the complacency in her eyes. It was about time. She really wanted to see this good show, but she was afraid of arousing Zhang Qilan's suspicion, so she pretended not to see anything. Nothing. Zhang Qilan calmly withdrew her gaze, picked up the half-warm tea on the table, and drank a few mouthfuls to calm down. Her eyes involuntarily looked at the pavilion, and then she saw Chu Liwei appear at the intersection, holding the handkerchief tightly in his hand. The two of them really had a relationship. They actually lived in the princess's mansion, but still refused to stop. So in a place where she couldn't see, had they been having a rendezvous? As if her heart had been stabbed by a knife, Zhang Qilan's heart was burning. Her eyes fell on Chu Liwei and watched him enter the pavilion. There were no outsiders, so the two of them should avoid arousing suspicion. The hanging gauze made it impossible to see the specific situation inside. She only saw that Chu Liwei first sat down, then stood up, and seemed to walk to Xiao Wanru. The two of them held hands and talked very close. Zhang Qilan bit the corner of her lips tightly, wishing that she could go down and tear Xiao Wanru's gentle face now. If she didn't have some self-control, Zhang Qilan really couldn't bear it at this time. Infanta Yuan and didn't seem to notice Zhang Qilan's strangeness. At this time, she and her servant girl picked up the snacks on the table and laid them out one by one to see which one was more delicious. Seeing that Infanta Yuan and didn't pay attention to her, Zhang Qilan's gaze fell on the pavilion again. At this time, the two of them actually disappeared. She looked around and suddenly turned to a place. From her position, she could only see the corner of the clothes exposed outside the rockery. They actually hid in the rockery and directly made out. Thinking that the two of them might be hugging each other behind the rockery and the shape was indescribable, Zhang Qilan suddenly stood up, and her face turned pale with anger. "Miss Zhang, what's wrong?" Infanta Yuan was startled, looked up at her and asked in confusion. "Nothing, I suddenly thought of something." Zhang Qilan calmed herself down and slowly sat down again. If she had 8 or 9 doubts before, now she had actually seen it. There really was an affair between the two of them. It was not what she had guessed. She originally had 1 or 2 points of guilt, but now it had turned into anger. Xiao Wanru, this bitch, actually seduced her eldest uncle and went to his mansion to have a private meeting. The two of them hid behind the rockery and whispered sweet nothings to each other. She couldn't calm down no matter how hard she tried. She picked up the cup at hand, poured half a cup of wine into it, and then put it down with jealousy and hatred in her eyes. She would not let Xiao Wanru off. Chapter 1163. Remember in 1 second, 800 $say, net wonderful pop-up window free reading. Did you forget something? Do you need my help? Princess Yuan, and asked with a straight face. No, it's not a big deal. Zhang Qilan reached out and rubbed her forehead. It doesn't matter if it's not a big deal. I have nothing to do here anyway. Commandery Princess Yuan, and said with a smile, we're supposed to be guests together. I don't know if the princesses have too few guests today, but you're the only one I've seen so far. If you're busy and I'm free, I'd like to lend you a hand. It's a good way to relieve my boredom. There were indeed few people in their place. So far, Zhang Qilan only saw Xiao Wanru and Chu Luiyue. Let's go down for a walk. Zhang Qilan thought about it and stood up. I've been up here for so long, I have to go down and see other sceneries. Great. I was just about to say the same thing. Princess Yuan, and agreed readily. The two of them tidied up their clothes and went downstairs with the servant girl. When they left the window, Zhang Qilan glanced at the pavilion again. There was still no one. Her eyes turned to the rockery. She could vaguely see a corner of the clothes there. The two of them were actually having a rendezvous there. They were really shameless. He could no longer hide the hatred in his heart. There was no longer a trace of a smile on his face, and his eyes were filled with hatred. The two of them went out of the pavilion one after another. Commandery Princess Yuan and pointed to a place and said that she wanted to take a look. Zhang Qilan parted with her and said that there were some small matters in the Prime Minister's mansion. She had to go back and tell someone. Although Commandery Princess Yuan and repeatedly expressed that she wanted to help, Zhang Qilan said that it was a matter of the Prime Minister's mansion and it was inconvenient for Commandery Princess Yuan and to intervene. Princess Yuan and had no choice but to leave. Seeing Infanta Yuan and leave, Zhang Qilan turned and walked to the pavilion she had seen before. Even if Infanta Yuan and expressed kindness, she was still the future princess of Zhou. This kind of thing could not be seen by her. Otherwise, it might be a weakness of Prince Yu in the future. Zhang Qilan did not understand why Prince Yu wanted to die like this. Didn't he know what kind of person Princess Qin was? If he dared to get involved with Princess Qin, would he still be able to achieve hegemony in the future? Could it be that he really liked this woman so much that he could let go of everything in his heart? Thinking of this, she became more and more angry. After coming over, she went straight to the rockery. After turning around the rockery, she saw Chu Luiyue standing by the lake with his hands behind his back. There was only the eunuch Xiao Qizi behind him. He looked around but failed to find Xiao Wanru for a while. Miss Zhang. Xiao Qizi was the first to see Zhang Qilan. He hurried forward to greet her. This was the future Princess Yu. Of course, he did not dare to offend her. Chu Luiyue turned his face gloomily. The excitement on his face had faded. At this time, there was a trace of coldness. How could he be in a good mood after being schemed against? Seeing Zhang Qilan appear here, his eyes were dark and he did not see her joy at all. Zhang Qilan was angry again. Greetings, Prince Yu. Zhang Qilan stepped forward and saluted. Did you get someone to lure me here just now? Chu Luiyue's eyes fell on Zhang Qilan's face, and his eyes were sharp. The more he thought about it, the more suspicious he became. Now Zhang Qilan's appearance also made him suspect her. I didn't lure Prince Yu here. Zhang Qilan shook her head. At first, she didn't understand what he meant. Suddenly, an idea flashed in her mind and she became angry. Did someone use my name to lure Prince Yu here to make an appointment? She didn't directly mention Xiao Wanru's name because she wanted to see Chu Luiyue's reaction. Someone used your name? You don't know? Chu Luiyue looked at her suspiciously. The suspicion in his eyes made Zhang Qilan feel wronged. Although she had never thought of marrying Chu Luiyue before, she did not object since she knew it. Prince Yu was handsome and was indeed the object of admiration for many daughters of aristocratic families in the capital city. Compared with the rough Prince Zhou, the sick and weak Prince Chen, and the ignorant Prince Xian, Prince Yu was the best candidate among the princes. But what did he mean now? Did he want to pour the dirty water on her and protect Xiao Wanru, who had a private meeting with him? What does Prince Yu mean? Did you see anyone coming? Zhang Qilan's eyes were burning with anger. She suppressed it and asked. No one came. I just saw Miss Zhang. If Miss Zhang has nothing to do, you can go back. Chu Luiyue was very annoyed. He reached out and rubbed his forehead. It didn't seem to be Zhang Qilan. Who was it? Who had tricked him into coming here? He had always been cautious. If it weren't for Zhang Qilan, he wouldn't have come here at all. Even if he had an idea about Xiao Wanru, he wouldn't believe it if Xiao Wanru asked him to come here at this time. He knew very well that Xiao Wanru didn't have any feelings for him. It was like this in the past, and it was still like this now. When Xiao Wanru married into Prince Chen's mansion, he had figured it out, but he was still unwilling. But his behavior just now was very excessive. Chu Luiyue didn't want to tell anyone about it, even Zhang Qilan. This was something he wanted to hide deep in his heart and didn't allow others to pry into it. Your Highness, do you want to meet someone in this secluded place? Zhang Qilan bit her lip. She knew that she shouldn't say this, but she couldn't control herself. She clearly saw Xiao Wanru here, but she didn't say that she was gone. She even didn't admit it. It was obvious that there was something fishy between them. What do you mean, Miss Zhang? Chu Luiyue was worried and impatiently waved his hand. Since you want to stay here and enjoy the flowers, I happen to have something to do, so I won't accompany you. After that, he turned around and was about to leave. He was in a really bad mood and didn't want to say anything to anyone. Moreover, he had to think about who had plotted against him. After entering the Fu today, he had only drunk a cup of tea. Could it be that there was a problem with the tea? Your Highness, you don't want to accompany me, but are you willing to accompany others? It's a pity that no matter how good others are, they are still married. Zhang Qilan couldn't bear it anymore and screamed. Chu Luiyue stopped and stretched out his hand to rub his eyebrows. He looked back coldly and said, Miss Zhang is also a miss from an aristocratic family. You should know the trouble of talking. A woman should be quiet and gentle. Don't imitate a woman with a long tongue. Didn't Prime Minister Zhang teach you this? After saying that, he waved his sleeves and left. Zhang Qilan's eyes turned red and tears fell from her eyes. She wanted to reach out and pull Chu Luiyue, but he didn't have the mood to pity the person in front of him at this time. He had already walked far away in a few steps, leaving only a cold rebuke without any warmth. Looking at Chu Luiyue's back leaving, Zhang Qilan couldn't help but turn her head and cry. She knew that Xiao Wanru was not a good person. At that time, in order to see Prince Yu at the city gate, she even secretly booked a private room. Now she hadn't married Prince Yu yet, but she was already treated like this. If she married him, how could she live? Miss, don't cry. The servant girl hurriedly came forward to persuade her. She was standing behind Zhang Qilan and naturally saw the scene in the pavilion. She wanted to look at Zhang Qilan and said angrily while persuading her, Miss, don't cry. It's useless for you to cry. You'd better think of a way. Princess Qin is really too hateful. How could she do such a thing? You also saw it, didn't you? Zhang Qilan asked for an alliance. Yes, I saw it. It's so hateful. Miss, you used to be so good to her. The servant girl was furious and felt injustice for her master. What should I do? What should I do? Zhang Qilan threw herself into the servant girl's arms and cried. Miss, don't be sad. We can't let Princess Qin run away in vain. Let's think of a way. We can't let Princess Qin take advantage of us. The servant girl was loyal and always stood in Zhang Qilan's point of view. She felt that it was Princess Chen's fickleness that made Prince Yu hate her miss. What else can I do? I can't help it. Zhang Qilan wiped her tears and gritted her teeth. She would not let Xiao Wanru go. In the past, she was just suspicious and didn't want to get close to Xiao Wanru. Now that she saw the real scene, she couldn't swallow this anger. Fortunately, Infanta Yuan just turned her body and didn't pay attention to this side. Otherwise, where would she put her face? In the future, when she saw Princess Zhou, she would feel inferior. A servant girl came over from the path. When she saw Zhang Qilan, she stepped forward and bowed. Zhang Qilan hurriedly turned her face away, not letting her see the traces of crying on her face. She gently covered her face with a handkerchief and said lightly, No need for formalities. I met Princess Qin just now. Princess Qin also asked where Miss Zhang was. I didn't know. The servant girl reported respectfully. Zhang Qilan's heart skipped a beat. Princess Qin looked for me? Princess Qin asked you? The servant girl said. She probably wanted to find out where she was and then have a rendezvous with Prince Yu. Zhang Qilan sneered and was about to send her away. Suddenly, she saw the plate in her hand and suddenly thought of something. She turned her gaze to the pavilion. There were 2 teacups in the pavilion. It was clear that the 2 of them had a rendezvous here just now. Prince Yu actually lied with his eyes open. Are you going to clean up the tea now? Zhang Qilan asked. When there was a banquet in the mansion, there would usually be servant girls to clean up the food and tea in the pavilions. If the people left, they would take away the tea. If the people didn't come, they would see that the temperature was not enough, and then they would send the newly brewed tea over. As for the fruit, it was the same. The servant girl replied. The plate in her hand was empty at this time, but it would be half full when she took it away. Is there a tea house nearby? Zhang Qilan looked around and asked. If the tea was soaked for a long time, it would be cold. It was necessary to prepare a tea house nearby to boil the water and prepare the fruit. A tea house could serve several different resting places around. Generally, the mansion did this. It was impossible to send it from the kitchen. It was too far away and it would be cold by the time it arrived. It's nearby. Does Miss Zhang need any snacks? The servant girl thought that Zhang Qilan wanted to eat some snacks that were not available here. There were some regular snacks here, but there were a lot of snacks. Sometimes the snacks were placed differently. What Zhang Qilan wanted to eat might not be available here. Are there a lot of snacks in the tea house? Yes, there are a lot. The 2 princesses specially ordered people to make them. There are also some snacks from the Su Kingdom, the servant girl replied. Let's go, take me there. A trace of coldness flashed in Zhang Qilan's eyes. She clenched her hands hard and then slowly let go. Xiao Wanru was ruthless, so don't blame her for being ruthless. Yes, let me bring 2 cups of tea, the servant girl said. Zhang Qilan waved her hand in agreement. Chapter 1164. The tea house was not very far away. Zhang Qilan followed the servant girl and took a few turns to get there. Along the way, Zhang Qilan also asked clearly. This tea house was in charge of a total of 6 tea and pastries. The road inside was winding. It was not too far from the tea house, and the distance was not too far. When they arrived at the tea house, there were a lot of people inside. There were old women who were cleaning, and there were servant girls who were sending in and out. They all looked very busy. Although they talked from time to time, their movements were relatively fast. Zhang Qilan followed the servant girl to a place where the pastries were placed. There were many kinds of pastries here. They were all on plates and had not been taken out yet. Many of them had just been steamed and were still steaming. Can I pick a few to take with me? Zhang Qilan looked at the busy people in the tea house. Of course, Miss Zhang, you can take whatever you like. I will help you hold it, the servant girl said with a smile. Zhang Qilan looked at it and picked a few pieces of hot pastries that were still steaming. At first glance, it was obvious that they had just come out of the oven. They were still sweet and appetizing. These kinds, 2 pieces of each. Help me put them on 2 plates, 1 piece per plate. The servant girl answered and put 2 plates of the same for her. Zhang Qilan looked at the 2 plates and frowned. Are there any prettier plates? This? I will go look for it. The servant girl hesitated and replied. Then go look for it quickly. We will wait here, Zhang Qilan's servant girl said. The servant girl responded and retreated. She went inside to see if there were better plates. The tea house had brought a lot of plates. Many of them had been sent to the various resting pavilions. As for what was left, it was really unclear. When the servant girl left, Zhang Qilan gestured to her servant girl. The servant girl trembled and took out a small bag of powder from her arms and sprinkled it on one of the plates of pastries. There was some fine powder, but there was too much heat. It was steamed for a while, but it did not take long for it to disappear. After waiting for a while, seeing that the powder was basically gone, Zhang Qilan moved a few pieces of pastries to a plate. This way, some of the pastries in one plate were drugged, and some were not. She carefully noted down those that were not drugged and gently wiped her hands with a handkerchief. 2 plates were placed on the table. They looked exactly the same, but in fact, there were a few pieces with drugs and a few without. She placed the plate she needed in front and the other plate behind. Zhang Qilan and the servant girl worked together. Their movements were very fast. There happened to be a few steamers placed in front of the table. The people coming and going were busy, so no one noticed the little movements between them. After doing this, seeing that no one was paying attention to them, Zhang Qilan walked out with the servant girl in boredom and waited outside the tea room. Not long after, the servant girl of the princess's mansion ran out with a head full of sweat. She held a few delicate plates in her hands. When she saw that Zhang Qilan was still outside, she breathed a sigh of relief and ran up. "Miss Zhang, what do you think of these plates?" She had already searched around inside. She saw that the 2 plates of pastries were still there, but the person was not there. She thought that Zhang Qilan was impatient, so she hurriedly chased after her. "Just these 2. Zhang Qilan picked 2 identical saucers with red flowers and a blue background. "Miss, I think it's still as good-looking as before." The servant girl she brought smiled and said, "Look, the previous pattern was still a red plum. Isn't that the kind you like the most?" Hearing what she said, Zhang Qilan hesitated. "Are those 2 really good-looking?" "I really think it's still as good-looking as before." The servant girl nodded and said with certainty, "Then, let's still use the original one." Zhang Qilan thought for a while and said, "I'll go get it now." The servant girl smiled. Zhang Qilan nodded. Since she nodded, it meant that there was no need to change it. This time, she did not go in. She let her servant girl go in with the servant girl of the princess's mansion. After a while, the 2 servant girls came out again. The servant girl she brought was holding a plate full of pastries. It was the plate they had chosen before, and the plate had not been changed. "Why is there only 1 plate?" Zhang Qilan looked at it and asked. "Miss, I think it's better to put the other plate here. When this plate is finished, I'll ask someone to take it. Just now, I asked them to put that plate aside. If you want to use it, you can take it directly. On the way out, it will get cold quickly. It's not good to eat too much cold food," the servant girl advised. These words were reasonable, so Zhang Qilan didn't say anything more. She asked her maid to reward the maid in the princess's mansion with a pouch. Then, she asked for the direction of the pavilions in front of her and found one to walk slowly. It was much faster to go there from here than to go around in circles. Xiao Wanru went all the way and still did not see anyone else. Then, she sat down and rested in another place. The scenery here was also good. There were a few beautiful flowers planted on the edge of a bamboo forest. The flowers were large and colorful, very attractive. There was also a piece planted beside the pavilion, which was as bright as rosy clouds. Xiao Wanru walked over and the fragrance of the flowers filled the air. She sat down and looked. The bamboo forest seemed to be in front of her, reflecting the sea of flowers, which was even more beautiful. This pavilion was close to a courtyard on the side. The courtyard was empty and the door was open. There were only 2 princesses living in such a big place, and they were all temporary residences. Many places were empty. Yujia poured a cup of tea for her. Xiao Wanru took it and took a sip. Looking at the beautiful scenery in front of her, her eyes became leisurely. She was recalling what had happened just now. "Yujia, have you seen the cluster of flowers at the entrance of the pavilion just now?" Xiao Wanru asked. The small flowers grew in the bushes. She really had never seen such flowers. "I haven't seen it before. I think it's wild in the mountains." How could people like the 2 princesses like wild flowers in the mountains? They don't look as colorful as the one in front of us, and they don't look as good as this one. Yujia shook her head. She just felt that these flowers did not seem to be carefully cultivated, but more like wild flowers. How could noble princesses like Princess Yu Tao and Princess Yu Yen grow this kind of wild flower? Yujia couldn't figure it out. Xiao Wanru was silent for a moment and was more sure that these flowers were unusual. It had only been a few days since they came to the capital. Neither Princess Yu Tao nor Princess Yu Yen had been out of the capital. How could they find such wild flowers? As for others, it was even more impossible for them to give them such wild shrub flowers. If they wanted to give them, they would give them precious flowers and plants. No one would be so shameless as to give these things. Excluding these 2, there was only the one brought from Su country. Su country was a small and remote country. It had some unimaginable means, such as the Changshan grass and these flowers that she couldn't figure out at the moment. Your Highness, isn't this Miss Zhang? Yu Jie suddenly saw Zhang Qilan walking slowly over from the intersection, and her eyes lit up. Xiao Wenru looked up and found that Zhang Qilan had also seen them. She walked over with a smile and looked at the servant girl behind her, holding a plate in her hand. The fresh pastries on the plate were still steaming. Greetings, Princess Qin. Zhang Qilan came over, leaned to Xiao Wenru with a smile, and said with a bit of mischief. Xiao Wenru stood up and said, "Don't stand on ceremony. Sit down. I heard that you were in front of me, but I didn't expect you to be behind me. Originally, I was in front of you. Later, I wanted to get some fresh pastries, so I specially went to the tea room and asked the tea room to find some freshly baked pastries for me." Zhang Qilan said with a smile and asked the servant girl to put down the pastries. She gently pushed them with her hand. "Let's try them together. They have just been baked. They are fresher than those placed here." There were pastries on the stone table, but they were no longer hot. The pastries in Zhang Qilan's hands were still hot. At first glance, it was obvious that they had not been out of the pot for a long time. The sweet fragrance of the pastries entered their noses and was very tempting. After walking for a while, they were hungry, but it was not time to eat. In addition, the food was delicious, so it really made people want to eat. Zhang Qilan said as she took a piece first. After tasting it for a while, her eyes lit up and she nodded repeatedly, "Try it, it's really good." As she spoke, she pushed the pastries in front of Xiao Wenru. When the two of them were dating before, they were very casual. They had done this kind of thing many times. Zhang Qilan did it very naturally. She even nodded and smiled with her eyes curved. She looked very lovely, as if there was no scheming at all. Xiao Wenru's eyes were inexplicably sad, and there was a trace of deepness in her clear eyes. Her gaze fell on Zhang Qilan's face, and the corners of her lips curved. There was a polite smile, and then she slowly reached out. When did it get to this point? Her fingers fell on a small round pastry. Zhang Qilan happened to push the pastry to Xiao Wenru at this time. This time, it was a small square pastry. She had originally taken a piece at random, and her hand fell on the square pastry. "It's really good. Princess Jin, try it." Zhang Qilan was still giving way. There was a bit of coquettishness in her smile. She looked cute, and now her smiling appearance was very pleasing. Xiao Wenru picked up the pastry in her hand and looked at it carefully. There were small sesame seeds on it, but she didn't know what was inside. He brought it to his nose and sniffed it lightly. "Is it very fragrant?" "It's very fragrant. I heard that some of the pastries are not from our kingdom of Dongsong. It should be a recipe brought by the two princesses. I have smelled it just now, but I can't smell anything. It seems a little strange. It's different from ours, but it tastes really good." Zhang Qilan said softly. She took another bite, and then brought it to her nose to smell it. She said enthusiastically, "Until now, I haven't tasted what's inside, let alone smelling it. Try it." Her smile was very clear, as usual. There was a trace of pastry powder at the corner of her lips. Although it was a bit improper, they had a good relationship, so of course, she wouldn't care. Looking at the pastry in Zhang Qilan's hand, and then at the pastry in her own hand, Xiao Wenru opened her mouth and slowly bit it. Finally, it had come to this. Chapter 1165. Zhang Qilan was eating the pastries, but her attention was on Xiao Wenru. Seeing that the pastries in Xiao Wenru's hands were about to reach her lips, she unconsciously clenched her hands on her knees. Her whole attention fell on the corner of her lips, and then she saw the pastries stop on Xiao Wenru's lips. "Why don't you eat it? It's really delicious," she subconsciously urged. "I was not in good health before, so the doctor told me to eat less glutinous food. I'm afraid that I won't be able to digest it lying in bed." Xiao Wenru explained softly. Looking at the pastries in her hands, her expression was a little complicated. Zhang Qilan couldn't see the complexity clearly. It seemed to be a pity, a little sad, or even sad. Gently pinching her palm, Zhang Qilan felt that her eyes were dazzled. How could Xiao Wenru have so many feelings for a piece of pastries? She must have seen it wrong. Her attention returned to the pastries. She clearly remembered that the pastries were sprinkled with medicine. Just now, she saw that Xiao Wanru was holding another piece of pastries without any medicine. She was anxious, pushed the plate with her hand, and took the opportunity to change it back. It's really delicious. You can taste it a little. Don't eat too much. Zhang Qilan advised her considerately. Xiao Wanru looked at her thoughtfully. This time, she did not hesitate and took a little bite. Hey, what's that? Yu Jie suddenly reached out and pointed behind Zhang Qilan. Zhang Qilan subconsciously looked back and saw that the direction Yu Jie was pointing was the bamboo forest. I seemed to see someone just now. It was a man and he was looking this way. Seeing that everyone looked over but did not find anything, Yu Jie explained embarrassedly. Was there anyone over there? Zhang Qilan frowned and suddenly remembered what Infanta Yuan had told her just now. She said that the place where they were at that time was not far from the men's outer courtyard. There were 2 princesses of the Su kingdom living in the princess mansion, and there was no male master. The boundary between the outer courtyard and the inner courtyard was not so clear, and no one was arranged to guard between the inner and outer courtyards. Princess Yuan had been close to Infanta Yuan, and recently. Some of what Infanta Yuan said was very true. Infanta Yuan also told her not to go too far in this direction. The outer courtyard was occupied by some handymen and guards from the Su kingdom. They helped the 2 princesses deal with some ordinary affairs and protect their safety. Could it be that someone from the outer court had entered? Zhang Qilan's eyes moved slightly. She turned to look at Xiao Wanru. Seeing that she had just eaten some snacks, she put down the snacks in her hand and took the tea to drink. When he looked down, he saw that a corner of the pastry was missing. It wasn't very big, but he had put in enough ingredients. He heaved a sigh of relief. This is the inner courtyard of the princess's mansion. How can a man appear here? There must be a mistake. Zhang Qilan laughed. Xiao Wanru put down the teacup in her hand and nodded. Maybe I saw it wrong. The bamboo shadow over there is swaying like a cyan robe. Hearing the 2 masters say so, Yu Jie lowered her head in embarrassment. This? Maybe. Does Princess Chen feel that the pollen here is a little thick? Zhang Qilan reached out and touched her head, frowned and asked. I think so. Zhang Qilan's eyes narrowed slightly, and no one could see the coldness at the bottom of her eyes. She had thought that Zhang Qilan was a friend she could befriend, but now it seemed that she had thought too much. In fact, when Zhang Qilan was appointed as Princess Yu, the 2 were destined to go to the opposite side. In her previous life, there was no trace of Zhang Qilan in her memory. In this life, the 2 of them met in the Yuhui nunnery by chance. Until now, she only felt that the world was unpredictable. She could be sure that Zhang Qilan had drugged her. If she hadn't been vigilant against Zhang Qilan, she would have been tricked. As for this drug, it must have been brought in by Zhang Qilan early on. That was to say, Zhang Qilan had been malicious to her for a long time. She didn't do anything to her because the reason was not enough. The reason seemed to be enough now. Was it just now? She immediately figured out what she couldn't figure out before. Just now, Chu Liuyue's appearance must have been seen by Zhang Qilan. Of course, someone was plotting against him. Xiao Wanru was not surprised by this and didn't think there was anything wrong with it. Princess Yu Yan of the Su kingdom was not an easy person to deal with. In addition, there was Infanta Yuan and jumping up and down in it. No matter how she looked at it, she would not be at ease. However, Zhang Qilan's reaction made her sad. She had sincerely regarded Zhang Qilan as a friend before. Now, Zhang Qilan had taken out the powder she had prepared long ago to plot against her, which meant that Zhang Qilan had prepared it when she came today. No matter whether she had seen Chu Liwei meet her today or not, she had been malicious to her for a long time. She felt a little sad, but then she let out a long sigh. Today, it could be considered that the relationship between the 2 of them had been resolved. When they met again, she was Princess Yu and she was Princess Chen. They were destined not to stand on the same side. Are you also not feeling well? Zhang Qilan looked more and more uncomfortable. She reached out to cover her chest and turned her head, looking like she was about to vomit. Miss, what's wrong with you? The maid beside her said anxiously. Help me to take a rest over there. Zhang Qilan looked very bad. Her face was slightly pale. She covered her chest uncomfortably and staggered to stand up. Yes, I'll help you there right away. The maid answered and put Zhang Qilan's hand on her arm. I also feel uncomfortable. Xiao Wanru also stood up. Let's go there together to take a rest. Zhang Qilan turned around with difficulty and suggested to Xiao Wanru. Seeing Xiao Wanru leaning weakly on a maid, she was overjoyed. Sure enough, the medicine was good. The effect was so obvious. She just rushed to follow the previous effect of the medicine. With this matter, even if something happened later, it couldn't be blamed on her. Something had happened to the two masters. The maids were flustered and confused. They hurriedly helped them to the yard on the side. Zhang Qilan asked Xiao Wanru to go to the main room, and the maid helped her to the wing room to rest. After settling the two of them, Zhang Qilan's maid ran over and said to Yu Jie and Qing, I don't know if our miss and your princess are allergic to the flowers outside. Can you two go out and ask a doctor to come and have a look? There were 3 maids and Xiao Wanru had 2. No matter how they looked at it, one of Xiao Wanru's maids had to go out. I'll go, Yu Jie said. It was better to leave Qing to take care of them. After all, she was only strong, but not as agile as Qing. Sister Yu Jie, you go. I'll take care of the princess. Qing nodded in understanding. Yu Jie left in a hurry. The 2 maids went back to their rooms. As soon as Qing went in, she heard a knock on the door outside. Xiao Wanru, who was lying on the bed, nodded to her. Qing hurriedly turned back and came out. She saw Zhang Qilan's maid standing outside. What else is there? The tea outside? It's been a while. Let's go to the tea room and get some hot tea for the master, okay? The maid said. Our princess is resting here and can't leave for a while, Qing said in embarrassment. Then I'll go get it. Please take care of my Mississippi. My miss vomited just now. She's very uncomfortable. The servant girl said eagerly. Compared with Xiao Wanru, Zhang Qilan didn't look very good just now. Okay, don't worry. I'll take care of her. Qing nodded. At this time, she could only do so. Can you come over first? Our miss's situation is really bad. The maid said worriedly. Qing had no choice but to follow. When she entered, she saw Zhang Qilan lying weakly on the bed. Her whole body was twitching slightly. She looked much worse than Xiao Wanru. The maid took a handkerchief and said, Please take care of our Mississippi. I'll go to the tea room to get some hot water now. It'll be quick. Don't go away for the time being. But what about our princess? Qing was dumbfounded. Just for a while. I'll be back soon. Although our miss usually looks healthy, she's actually not in good health. I'm afraid that something will really happen to her now. The maid cried. Seeing that she was still wasting time here, Qing hurriedly said, Go and come back quickly. I will. The maid ran out in a hurry. When she went outside, she looked at the direction and didn't go to the tea room just now. Instead, she went outside, in the direction of the outer courtyard. There were handymen in the outer courtyard. Miss also brought an old maid here today. She had been waiting there since early. Miss had prepared the dregs a long time ago, and so had the old maid. Knowing that she was going to meet Prince Qin today, Miss also had a plan. But when they were in the carriage, she said that it was better to be prepared. Now that it was really carried out, the maid was still afraid. Fortunately, not long after she left, she saw her old maid. When the old maid saw the maid, she immediately understood what she meant. After walking for a while with the maid, she came to the back of a house and made a gesture to the maid. The maid hurriedly hid herself. A servant in his 30s came over. He looked very thin. The old maid hid in the corner of the house and watched the man walk behind her. She picked up a wooden stick that she had prepared earlier and hit the man's head hard. The man shook a few times and immediately fainted. The blow hit the target. The old maid and the maid were overjoyed and came out of the dark. The old maid was very strong. She carried the thin man on her back and followed the maid to the courtyard. As long as she threw the man on Prince Chen's bed, it would be over. Princess Chen should have fainted now and wouldn't know who did it. Miss just wanted to damage Princess Chen's reputation. No matter whether Princess Chen was framed or not, lying in bed with a man was a disgrace. Princess Chen and Prince Yu had an ambiguous relationship, so she should be punished. Even if others couldn't see it, this matter would become Mrs. Blackmail against Princess Chen. Thinking of this, the maid immediately felt that she was helping Miss vent her anger. It was not a big deal, so she became courageous. At the gate of the courtyard, the maid went to the tea room to get hot water. Under the guidance of the maid, the old maid knew that there was only Princess Chen in the middle of the main room, so she quietly slipped into the courtyard with the man on her back. She sneaked to the main room, pushed the door to the door of the main room, and opened it gently. Chapter 1166. The old maid was very strong and fat, so it didn't take her much effort to bring a thin man over. She gently pushed the door open. Before she could see clearly, she was hit hard in the face. Her body went limp and she almost fell to the ground. Fortunately, she reacted quickly. She threw away the stick in her hand and held the door frame by herself. In the room, Yujie stood in front of Xiao Wanru with alert eyes and held the door bolt in her hand. In fact, she didn't use too much strength because she was afraid of beating the old maid to death. She just wanted to knock the old maid out. Unexpectedly, the old maid was so strong that she didn't knock the old maid out with a stick. Seeing the situation in the room clearly, the old maid also felt dizzy. She stammered and pointed at Yujie and Xiao Wanru behind Yujie. How dare you plot against our princess? You are so rebellious. The guards will come later and execute your 9 generations. Yujie held the wooden stick in her hand and threatened with a sneer. The old maid was just an inferior servant. She was very strong and could be regarded as the strongest among the women in the inner courtyard of Prime Minister Zhang's mansion. However, she was not very knowledgeable. As soon as she heard that the old maid's family would be punished, she became weak and directly sat on the ground. She trembled and couldn't say a word. How could she dare to do harm to Xiao Wanru? If you want to live, bring your people here. Xiao Wanru's eyes fell on the old maid coldly and she said coldly. After that, Yujie walked past the old maid and said sternly to the trembling old maid, "Hurry up." Hearing that there was a chance to live, the old maid finally regained some strength. She was about to drag the unconscious servant who fell to the ground. She was so flustered that she almost fell. Yujie had to reach out to help her so that she could help the old maid get up again and stagger to the next wing room. The old maid regretted it. She shouldn't have listened to her master. She coveted the banknote and followed her master to do such a thing. She even plotted against Princess Chen. Previously, the old maid only knew that her master didn't like a woman and wanted to teach her a lesson, so she didn't care. Her master was the future Princess Yu. Even if she taught the womenfolk of the other mansion a lesson, so what? She thought it was nothing serious, but she didn't expect that it was Princess Chen who was plotted against. She was Prince Chen's princess. Even if she was just an ignorant old maid, she knew that something big was going to happen. His legs were sore, so he dragged him to the next room. Xiao Wanru entered the wing room first. Seeing Xiao Wanru come in, Zhang Qilan and Qing, on the bed had completely different reactions. Zhang Qilan looked as if she had seen a ghost. Calculating the time, Xiao Wanru must have fainted. How could she appear in front of her? Qing naturally stepped aside and stood on Xiao Wanru. Why are you here? Zhang Qilan's voice was floating. I always thought you were upright. I didn't expect that before you married into Prince Yu's mansion, you and I are like fire and water, and you must kill me. Xiao Wanru looked at Zhang Qilan calmly. She had already been sad. At this time, she was calm, extremely calm, as if it was someone else's business. Only the deepness in her eyes indicated that she wasn't really calm at the moment. Princess Chen, what does this mean? Zhang Qilan tried hard to calm down and pretended to be calm as she replied. Although she didn't know what had happened, she was sure that things were not good. Of course, she wouldn't admit anything at this time. Miss Zhang, are you unwilling to admit it? It seems that the previous straightforward Miss Zhang is also fake. She is indeed the future Princess Yu. Since you have done such a thing, you must have planned it long ago. I just don't understand. Are you trying to find an opportunity to plot against me? Xiao Wanru raised her eyebrows and asked. You don't rush to deny it. Since I said so, I naturally have evidence. Xiao Wanru interrupted Zhang Qilan. At this time, the door opened. Yu Jie stood at the door, and then a rough old maid dragged in a man with difficulty. Zhang Qilan's calmness was immediately broken, and her face changed greatly. Miss Zhang, I don't need to ask. Which mansion is this old maid from? Or do you want to hear the evidence of this old maid? I'm going to send these two to Prince Yu now and let him judge them. How about it? Xiao Wanru raised her eyebrows and asked. These words were like a sharp thorn that penetrated deep into Zhang Qilan's heart. No, in fact, this thorn had existed for a long time. When she heard some rumors about Xiao Wanru and Chu Luiyue, it had already existed. Now Xiao Wanru shook it heavily. Xiao Wanru, are you so sure that Prince Yu will help you? For you, Princess Chen, Prince Yu will deal with me, the future Princess Yu, right? Zhang Qilan suddenly said loudly. Her sharp voice was so penetrating that the servant girl, who had just arrived at the gate of the courtyard, was startled. The 2 cups of hot tea in her hands almost fell. Seeing the voice coming from her master's room, the servant girl was anxious. She walked to the door in a few steps and pushed it open. She was stunned when she saw the scene in the room. Shouldn't Princess Chen be in the room at this time? Why did it come to her master? It seemed that her master was at a disadvantage. Zhang Qilan, I will only tell you this once. Prince Yu has nothing to do with me. The reason why I sent you to Prince Yu is to let him ask about this matter. Xiao Wanru said. Zhang Qilan was stunned. She didn't expect Xiao Wanru to have no intention of revealing this matter. Miss Zhang, I brought you here. I also brought your words. Our relationship in the past is written off. Xiao Wanru raised her eyes and said, she let Zhang Qilan go today because of the relationship between them, but now the relationship had been broken. If there was nothing between you and Prince Yu, why would I do this? Zhang Qilan's faint voice came from behind. Xiao Wanru's footsteps suddenly stopped by the door. After a pause, she suddenly turned around and said with a strong look in her eyes, since Miss Zhang intends to say it clearly, I won't hide it from you, lest Miss Zhang accidentally fall into someone else's trap and drag me down. Miss Zhang, tell me, when did Prince Yu and I have something to do? Let's make it clear today, lest Miss Zhang feels wronged. If there was nothing between you and Prince Yu, why would Prince Yu go to the Empress to ask for your hand in marriage? Zhang Qilan's face was flushed from being questioned, and she argued with a flushed face. Prince Yu asked for my hand in marriage? Xiao Wanru was stunned. She really didn't know about this. You see, since everyone has decided to make it clear, why do you have to hide this matter? Zhang Qilan sneered. I really don't know about this, but I want to ask you, where did you get it from? If this kind of thing wasn't spread by someone with ulterior motives, do you think it will spread to your ears? Besides, even if Prince Yu really asked for my hand in marriage, so what? Does it mean that whoever Prince Yu asked to marry must have something between him and that person? Now that you are the future Princess Yu, does it mean that you have a relationship with Prince Yu long ago? Xiao Wanru asked with a sneer, her eyes cold. Although this was the first time she knew about this, she was even more disappointed. Zhang Qilan had suspected her long ago, but she didn't reveal anything in front of her. This so-called comradeship had probably already changed its nature when these words were spread. She originally thought that Zhang Qilan was also a good friend, but now she felt that she was wrong after all. If Zhang Qilan regarded her as a friend, when she heard this kind of thing and had doubts, the first person she would ask was her. However, she had never told him about it. She only hid her thoughts and waited for a suitable opportunity to deal a harsh blow to him. Just like this time, if someone found out that he was lying with a servant, he might not even be able to keep his life in the future. So what if she was Princess Chen? So what if she was framed? She had lost the dignity of the royal family. Even if Chu Luchen wanted to protect her, the Empress Dowager and the Emperor would not allow it. Or even if they kept her alive, the position of Princess Chen could not be kept. She would either be demoted to a concubine or sent to Marquis Xing's mansion. It seemed to be a simple move, but for a woman, it was more vicious than taking someone's life. The deepest feeling in Zhang Qilan's heart was dug out. She was ashamed and annoyed. You just pulled Prince Yu and did something shamelessly behind the rockery. Even without what happened just now, you are actually sorry for Prince Chen and me. Speaking of this, Zhang Qilan's original guilty conscience became angry again. Let's not talk about what you said before. This time it must be true, right? Should I still tolerate you at this time? The matter just now was stuck in her throat. It was difficult to say it before, but in the current situation, she blurted it out. After saying that, she looked at Xiao Wanru angrily. Zhang Qilan, in fact, you don't have to make it sound so dignified. If you didn't plan to plot against me early, you wouldn't have arranged for people early and prepared the powder early. Don't tell me that this was prepared for you by Infanta Yuan or the two princesses. I believe that you have a way out for other things. Xiao Wanru said. Her words were aggressive, forcing Zhang Qilan to face the unbearable feeling in her heart. I met Prince Yu just now because he heard that you invited him over. He was asked to come, but he saw me. I think Prince Yu will ask you personally later. Miss Zhang, just listen to Prince Yu's explanation. As for me, please stay away from me in the future, Xiao Wanru said. After saying that, she glanced at Zhang Qilan with a bit of ridicule, as well as the trembling old maid and the fainted man beside her. She raised the corner of her mouth and said, Miss Zhang, you'd better find a reason to explain clearly what is going on. Infanta Yuan and the two princesses may be arriving soon. You? What do you mean? Zhang Qilan was shocked and asked anxiously. I don't mean anything. It's just that you should explain the situation now. Otherwise, I'm afraid I will tell the whole reason. At that time, Miss Zhang's reputation will be ruined, and your father will be implicated. As for the position of Prince Yu, you may have to give it to another woman. Since you are willing to give it up, there will naturally be someone willing to accept it. Xiao Wanru said. This time, after saying that, she walked out and turned back to the main room. The two maids followed her closely and guarded her. When she entered the room, she went straight into the inner room and sat on the bed in the middle. Princess, Yu Jie said. Let's just listen quietly. Xiao Wanru waved her hand and motioned for her not to say anything. She listened carefully and found that someone had come outside. Chapter 1167. I'm also tired. Let's go in and have a rest. Princess Yuyin led Infanta Yuan and into the yard with a large group of servant girls. They were like stars surrounding the moon, which was also in line with her identity as a princess. Thank you, Princess Yuyin. I happen to be tired. Infanta Yuyin pressed her eyebrows with a handkerchief and said with a smile. The two of them went to the main room together, with a trace of pride in their eyes. Zhang Qilan thought that she had done it secretly, but in fact, everything had been calculated by Infanta Yuan and Princess Yuyin. Xiao Wanru had an accident, and it was Zhang Qilan who did it. Even if Zhang Qilan had 10,000 mouths, she couldn't explain it clearly. Some of Zhang Qilan's previous tricks had already been broken by them. Even if someone investigated, Zhang Qilan would definitely be the one to find out. Xiao Wanru's reputation was ruined, and Zhang Qilan framed her. After both of them suffered losses, the positions of Princess Yu and Princess Chen would be vacant. It would be easy for Princess Yuyan to marry anyone she wanted. The door of the main room was tightly closed. Why is this room closed? Infanta Yuan looked at the tightly closed door and asked in confusion, is it possible that someone is already resting inside? Let's see which misses inside. Princess Yuyan said. She was not surprised that the door was tightly closed. Just now, when Zhang Qilan came in with Xiao Wanru, Princess Yuyan's people didn't dare to get too close, for fear of being discovered. Later, when an old maid came in with a man, they saw it. When Yu Jie left, Zhang Qilan's servant girl left, they also saw it, and they didn't find Zhang Qilan and Xiao Wanru left. They were sure that something must have happened, but they didn't know to what extent. Zhang Qilan's jealousy of Xiao Wanru was on the verge of exploding after being provoked a few times. She also told her that she would see Prince Yu and Princess Chen today. The implied words would make Zhang Qilan want to do it, so Zhang Qilan must be prepared today. Princess Chen was in poor health and usually lived in seclusion. Now that Prince Chen had returned to his mansion, no one dared to go to his mansion to make trouble. If they missed this time, there would be no next time. How could Zhang Qilan not be prepared? As for the scene where Zhang Qilan saw Chu Luiwei and Xiao Wanru, it was also specially arranged. Although he felt that even without this scene, Zhang Qilan would still make a move. At least with this scene, Zhang Qilan would be more ruthless and vicious. There were some small accidents in it. Originally, Prince Yu couldn't control himself and hugged Xiao Wanru on the spot. Unexpectedly, the two of them separated peacefully. Originally, he wanted to let Zhang Qilan, who saw this scene, be directly stimulated and confirm all the doubts in her heart in the past. Zhang Qilan would believe that there was something between Chu Luiwei and Xiao Wanru. Then, after Zhang Qilan's matter was exposed, she would definitely expose the affair between them crazily. Even if she did not harm Xiao Wanru would not have a chance to turn over because of this. The emperor couldn't do anything to Chu Luiwei, but he would kill Xiao Wanru, who was a source of trouble. There were many ways to make a person disappear silently. As for Zhang Qilan, could she escape after hurting someone? This situation meant that there was someone in the house, and the door was closed, which meant that something was up. Princess Yuan and Infanta Yuan smiled knowingly. The two of them were the most innocent passers-by. They just happened to encounter this. A maid went forward to knock on the door. At first, she knocked vigorously, and then she knocked hard. After a long while, she saw Yu Jie come to open the door. Yu Jie opened the door halfway. When she saw Princess Yuan and Infanta Yuan standing outside, her face changed greatly. She hurriedly tried to close the door. A palace maid beside Princess Yuan stepped forward and blocked the door. "Why don't you salute when you see our princess?" The palace maid scolded. "Greetings, princess." Yu Jie had to bow her head and salute, but her body blocked the door. Infanta Yuan looked inside the slightly open door and saw no one. She should be in the inner room. She took a step forward and was about to push the door open. "Your Highness, our princess is resting in the inner room." Yu Jie hurriedly said, "Is your princess not feeling well? Do you want a doctor to come and have a look?" Infanta Yuan put down her hand and asked with concern. "Our princess is a little unwell, but she should be fine now." Yu Jie hurriedly explained, which made people more suspicious. It was very likely that something had happened to Xiao Wanru in the inner room. Infanta Yuan felt complacent in her heart. The three princes had chosen three princesses. No matter the unmarried Princess Yu or the married Princess Qin, she was the only one who deserved the title in the end. For this reason, the Empress Dowager and the Emperor would think highly of her and Prince Zhou's mansion. Even if concubine Lan in the Imperial Palace was favored, so what? Prince Qin couldn't even clean up the inner courtyard, let alone deal with the Imperial court. She was eager to enter the door to see what happened to Xiao Wanru. "Since Princess Qin is fine, Your Highness, let's go in and have a look." Infanta Yuan invited. "Okay." Princess Yuan readily agreed. They came here for Xiao Wanru, so how could they be stopped by a maid? Moreover, the maid looked flustered and dared to step forward to stop them, which meant that something had happened inside. Otherwise, there would be no sound inside when they were in such a mess. Your Highness, our princess is resting." Yu Jie stepped forward to stop them again. "We just want to see Princess Qin. If she is really in trouble, I will immediately send for a doctor," Princess Yuan said in a very gentle manner. Infanta Yuan frowned and said unhappily, "You are just a little maid. Why are you blocking the way? Do you want to hurt your master?" "Your Highness, I didn't." "Since you didn't, get out of the way. Let us see how Princess Qin is." Infanta Yuan said with a straight face and winked at the two maids beside her. The two maids understood and stepped forward to pull Yu Jie. Seeing them take action, Yu Jie struggled and shouted, Your Highness, our princess is really resting. She was a little unwell just now, so she just lay down for a while." "Shut up." Princess Yuyan's face also darkened. Since she had said what she wanted to say, she wouldn't give Xiao Wanru a chance to hide inside at this time. Another two palace maids came over and pulled Yu Jie aside. Then they entered the room. Princess Yuyan and Infanta Yuan, and didn't let their maids and palace maids wait outside. They swarmed into the inner room. The more Xiao Wanru was in trouble inside, the more people should see it, so that Xiao Wanru couldn't explain herself. The curtain of the inner room was lifted, and a large group of people came in. However, when they saw the beauty sitting on the bed, Princess Yuyan and Infanta Yuan, and were stunned. Xiao Wanru sat quietly on the bed with her black hair hanging over her shoulders. She looked like she had just woken up, but her eyes were cold, which was different from her beautiful face. She just looked at Infanta Yuan and Princess Yuyan quietly. After a long while, she smiled and said, "Princess Yuyan, why did you bring such a large group of people here?" Princess Yuyan didn't expect that Xiao Wanru would be sitting here in good health and nothing happened to her. Where was the male servant? Why wasn't he here? Sweeping his gaze across the room, he immediately noticed that there seemed to be someone hiding in the shadows behind the large bed. His eyes lit up. The person must be hiding in the shadows behind the bed curtains. "I heard that Princess Chen was not feeling well, so I specially came to have a look," Princess Yuyan said as she walked inside. She didn't follow Xiao Wanru, but looked behind the curtain. "What are you looking for, Princess Yuyan?" Xiao Wanru stared at Princess Yuyan closely, which made her stop uneasily. Infanta Yuan and repeatedly reminded her to be careful of Princess Chen and told her not to underestimate her. It seemed that she was right. At this moment, Princess Chen was still so calm. When she met her eyes, Princess Chen didn't flinch at all and even made her feel a little flustered. Princess Chen's clear watery eyes seemed to be able to see through her mind, and she withdrew her feet uneasily. She had an inexplicable feeling that she should be more careful at this moment. The imperial harem of the Su kingdom was not peaceful either. Her mother always told her to be careful. Even if she was almost sure of success, she had to deal with it carefully. This was the main reason why her mother could come to this point and force the Empress to protect herself. Although she was sure to win now, she still needed to deal with it carefully. After all, her feeling for Princess Chen came from Infanta Yuan. She wouldn't be naive enough to think that Infanta Yuan had told her everything. "I'm not looking for anything. I just want to help Princess Chen open the window. It's too stuffy inside." Princess Yuyan looked slightly strange, stopped and said with a smile. This reason was very far-fetched. Xiao Wanru still looked at Princess Yuyan calmly and said with a smile, "Princess Yuyan and Infanta Yuan, if there's nothing else, please wait outside. I'll come out after washing up." "Princess Chen, it's really stuffy in the room. I'll help you open the window." Seeing that Princess Yuyan didn't move, Infanta Yuan was very anxious. She directly used Princess Yuyan's excuse to take a few steps forward and lean behind the curtain. The position of the window was not behind the curtain, but on the right side of the bed. "Infanta Yuan, what's your purpose? Why do you look behind my curtain? Do you think there's someone else in the room? How do you know it?" Xiao Wanru leaned back and asked with calm and cold eyes. At this time, she was still so calm. She was either a fool or really had nothing to do. "Your Highness." Princess Yuyan already felt that something was wrong and her face changed dramatically. She wanted to call Infanta Yuan back, but it was too late. Infanta Yuan pulled open the bed curtain. The figure behind the bed curtain moved. The maid came out from behind the bed curtain, walked to the front and bowed to them. Then she turned to Xiao Wanru on the bed and said, "Your Highness, I found your hairpin." There was a delicate hairpin in her hand, which seemed to be the one Xiao Wanru wore when she entered the room. Princess Yuyan and Infanta Yuan's faces changed dramatically. Infanta Yuan subconsciously took a few steps closer to the bed and looked around in disbelief. How could there be only Xiao Wanru and her two maids in the room? Chapter 1168. What? Did you come to my consort's room to investigate someone? A gloomy voice suddenly sounded from behind everyone, as if there was an icicle in it. It was originally with a touch of gentleness. Although it gave people a sense of alienation that was difficult to get close to, like the clouds in the sky, at this time, it inexplicably made people feel cold and gloomy. It was creepy. Princess Yuyan reacted quickly. She turned to the side and immediately looked back. She saw Chu Luchen standing at the door frame with his hands clasped behind his back. He was wearing a dark purple brocade robe embroidered with lake patterns and a jade crown. His pair of handsome eyes revealed a heart-palpitating coldness. With just one glance, Princess Yu Yen subconsciously took 2 steps back. She cursed in her heart. How could she let Chu Luchen see this kind of thing? She secretly regretted it. When she heard that Chu Luchen had entered the mansion, she specially sent someone to invite Chu Luchen. She also told the servants not to stop Chu Luchen when he came in or to inform him. They just needed to point out the direction. The purpose was to let Chu Luchen see Xiao Wanru's disgrace. She brought so many people here today for the same purpose. She needed more people to see Xiao Wanru's disgrace so that this matter could not be suppressed. She had to ruin Xiao Wanru's reputation. This matter was originally in the bag. Princess Yu Yen and Infanta Yuan, and just needed to sit on the fishing platform and watch Zhang Qilan take action. Unexpectedly, things went wrong now. Not only did they not find anything unusual in Xiao Wanru's room, but they also let Chu Luchen see it. Tell me, why did you come to my consort's room to investigate someone? Why did you trouble Princess Yuan and Infanta Yuan, and to come here aggressively with so many people? There was no smile on Chu Liuchen's handsome face. He walked in slowly and walked past Princess Yuan and Infanta Yuan. Xiao Wanru smiled. She knew that she just needed to wait and see. Chu Luchen came at the right time. Infanta Yuan felt uneasy and wanted to go back. Her current situation was even stranger than Princess Yuan's. She was behind the bed curtain. In order to see it clearly, she deliberately moved closer to the back of the bed. This posture had already explained everything. I saw something fell behind the bed. Just now, Princess Chen asked her servant girl to pick up the hairpin. Infanta Yuan then argued with difficulty. He carefully retracted his footsteps and wanted to turn around again. Help this princess? Chu Luchen stared at Infanta Yuan, then coldly. His eyes were as deep as the abyss, without any warmth. Infanta Yuan was terrified. She remembered that Chu Luchen broke her second brother's hand without saying anything. Would he break her hand now? As he thought of this, his arm seemed to ache faintly. Someone invite Prince Zhou over. Chu Luchen said coldly. Xiao Xuanzi, who was at the door, responded and hurriedly went out to Chu Liuzhou, who was standing in the yard leisurely enjoying the scenery, and said with a smile, Your Highness, our prince invites you in. When they entered the door just now, they happened to be there. Chu Luiwei wanted to come over after hearing Yu Jie's rumor. Chu Luchen heard the message sent by Princess Yin. Chu Liuzhou saw them coming over, so he asked to come over together. In the yard, Chu Luiwei went to Zhang Qilan's wing room, and Chu Luchen went to the main room. It was inconvenient for Chu Liuzhou to go in, so he wandered in the yard and listened to the movements inside. The room in the middle was the most noisy. There seemed to be a lot of people in it, but he still didn't know that Infanta Yuan was inside. Hearing Xiao Xuanzi's words, he looked around the room curiously and asked, Who's inside? Infanta Yuan is also inside. Xiao Xuanzi said with a smile. But Chu Liuzhou said indifferently and walked into the room. Since Chu Luchen didn't avoid him and Yuan was also inside, it was okay for him to go in and have a look. The gauze curtain in the inner room had fallen layer by layer, blocking Xiao Wanru's figure on the bed. Infanta Yuan wanted to come back when the two servant girls lowered the gauze curtain. However, as soon as she looked up, she saw Chu Liuchen's cold eyes falling on her face. The feeling of being stared at by a poisonous snake made her not dare to move at all and freeze there. Her back was sweating, and her throat was dry. She turned to Princess Yuyan for help. Princess Yuyan coughed in a low voice and showed a charming smile on her face. Since Prince Chen is here, let's talk outside. We can't let Prince Zhou enter the inner room. As she said, she looked at Xiao Wanru, who was sitting on the bed. Even if the gauze curtain fell, it was not the right time for Prince Zhou to come in. Since I'm here, I'm not afraid of any gossip. If someone talks too much, just kill him. Chu Luchen rolled his deep eyes and said slowly, This is not good. Princess Yuyan's forehead was also sweating. There are a lot of people here, and they are all my trusted subordinates from the Su state. Infanta Yuan and subordinates are also from Great Elder Princess's mansion. So what? Could it be that you think that Imperial uncle will blame this prince for killing these people? Chu Luchen said in an understated tone, as if he was not talking about the lives of so many people present, but the most common greeting in the weather. The maids and palace maids who came with Princess Yuyen and Infanta Yung, and all looked at the ground and trembled unconsciously. They all felt the killing intent in Prince Chen's words. He really wanted to kill them, not to threaten them. Many people regretted it, and their faces were pale without a trace of blood, especially the trusted palace maids brought by Princess Yuyen from the Su state. If they had known that Prince Chen was so lawless, they should have persuaded Princess Yuyen to not let Princess Yuyen set up such a trap. What's going on? Chu Liuzhou's voice came from the door. He looked around the room and his eyes fell on Infanta Yuan, who was in the innermost room. He frowned because he didn't expect to see such a scene. Princess Yuan, Anne's position was really surprising. She actually stood behind the bed alone, and it could be said that she had even squeezed into the curtains behind her. It was really undignified, as if she wanted to squeeze into the curtains. The dignified Infanta Yuan looked more like she was going to do something, and she was going to squeeze to the back of the bed. Infanta Yuan Anne's face turned red, and she didn't know whether to move forward or retreat. Suddenly, she lowered her head and began to wipe her tears with red eyes. Princess Yuyen's face relaxed. It would be much easier to solve the problem if Infanta Yuan cried. After all, Infanta Yuan was the future princess of Zhou. Now that Prince Zhou was still here, she should cry after suffering such a great grievance. Prince Qin couldn't force her to do anything. Could Prince Qin be so calculative with a woman to this extent? She was driven to tears. But the next moment, not only Princess Yuyen's face froze, but also Infanta Yuan, who was crying with grievance, stopped crying for a moment. No one expected that Chu Luchen would directly find Chu Liuzhou and directly reveal the matter without giving him any face. Second brother, you have to give me an explanation. Your future princess brought so many people to my princess's room to look for evidence. I don't know what evidence she is looking for. Is it the evidence of rebellion or the evidence of framing my princess? Tell me so that I can help you to look for it. Chu Liuzhou's peaceful face changed greatly at once. Chu Liuchen's words were cunning, and Infanta Yuan, Anne's position and her embarrassed look showed that it was true. He felt annoyed. He had cooperated with Infanta Yuan several times before, and he felt that she was a good partner. His mother found a smart woman for him. He didn't expect that Infanta Yuan would reveal such a big mistake for him when he had such a feeling. There were so many people in the room, and the atmosphere seemed to be unfriendly. He took a deep breath and suppressed the sudden anger in his heart. He had insisted on following them because he felt that something was wrong. Whether it was Chu Liuyue's or Chu Liuchen's, he just wanted to watch the fun. He didn't expect that he would be involved in it instead of watching the fun. Infanta Yuan, what are you doing in Princess Chen's room? Chu Liuzhou asked. Although the gauze curtain on the bed was down, he could faintly see a figure. It should be Princess Chen inside. Your Highness, I don't want to look for any evidence. I just want to help Princess Chen find something behind the bed. Infanta Yuan then cried again, feeling aggrieved. Infanta Yuan, when did you become so close to me? You rushed to help my servant girl find something for me and even checked behind the bed? Xiao Wanru's cold voice, which was like ice on the bed, pierced through Infanta Yuan Anne's fake peace. But Infanta Yuan couldn't figure it out at the moment. Even if she dropped something, she could just send a servant girl to find it. As an infanta, even if she had a good relationship with Xiao Wanru, she couldn't look behind the bed in person, not to mention that she had an ordinary relationship with Xiao Wanru. There was dust behind the bed. If she accidentally rubbed it on her body, she would have to change her clothes and freshen up. Infanta Yuan Anne's words were originally an argument. Because she had argued once before, she unconsciously used it to argue again. After she finished speaking, she found that it was not a reason at all. Her face was as red as blood, and she stammered but couldn't say anything. Second brother, if you don't like this king, you can directly deal with this king. Why send Princess Yuan to deal with this king's princess? This king's princess has always been unwell, and she was injured before. If something happens to her due to anger, will Princess Yuan and pay with her life, or will Princess Yu Yen pay? Chu Liuchen's cold eyes swept over the people present and finally fell on Chu Liuzhou. Suddenly he smiled coldly. He was extremely handsome. When he smiled gently, he looked like an immortal that had descended from the heavens. However, when he smiled, there was a chill that came from the bones. It was as if something had crawled out of hell, and it made people feel a sense of emptiness and coldness. Princess Yu Yen's face turned slightly pale. She took a step back subconsciously and didn't dare to get too close to Chu Liuchen. His words were not empty talk. If something really happened to Xiao Wanru, Prince Chen would probably punish her and Infanta Yuan. Chapter 1169. What's going on today? Didn't you come to the Princess Mansion as a guest? Why did you bring so many people and follow Princess Yu Yen here? Chu Liuzhou frowned and looked cold. His eyes fell on Infanta Yuan. If he did something wrong, he would be implicated. Although his mother was still in the Empress Dowager's palace, she only had the title of Empress Dowager. At this time, he couldn't be hurt. Only by clearing Infanta Yuan, Anne's name, could he not be implicated. For this reason, Chu Liuzhou had to save Infanta Yuan and reminded her. This was the Princess Mansion. Most of the people brought here were Princess Yu Yen's people. Although Infanta Yuan and also brought people here, there were only 2 servant girls, which was not as many as Princess Yu Yen's people. If someone wanted to plot against Princess Chen, Princess Yu Yen was more suitable than Infanta Yuan. Chu Liuzhou thought that Princess Yu Yen had nothing to do with him, so it could only be Chu Qing or even Chu Luiyue. He heard that Princess Yu Yen specially invited Chu Luiyue before Yuan and said that Princess Yu Yen wanted to marry Chu Luiyue. Originally, he just wanted to watch a good show and let Infanta Yuan and choose Princess Yu Yen to do things quietly. But now he had to let Infanta Yuan and give up Princess Yu Yen. He had the same idea as Princess Yu Yen, but he spoke much faster than Princess Yu Yen. Although Infanta Yuan was crying, she had been paying attention to others' words. Hearing Chu Liuzhou's words, she immediately understood what he meant. She hesitated for a moment and immediately told him about Princess Yu Yen. Your Highness, I'm just here as a guest. I followed Princess Yu Yen all the way here. Princess Yu Yen wanted to go in to rest, but she didn't let her in. She even pulled Princess Chen's servant girl aside and rushed in. I really don't know anything else. I just thought that something had happened, so I wanted to find out before Princess Yu Yen did and warn Princess Chen. Infanta Yuan An's grandmother was Ruiping Great Elder Princess, who often told her about things in the palace. Later, because Infanta Yuan and married Chu Liuzhou, Ruiping Great Elder Princess specially mentioned some things about the struggle in the palace. Infanta Yuan and had said what should be said at this time, but Infanta Yuan and didn't think of it for a while. You're talking nonsense. Princess Yu Yen was so angry that her face changed dramatically. She pointed at Infanta Yuan and shouted angrily. The meaning of these words was that she harbored evil intentions and wanted to deal with Princess Chen, treating her as a tool. Although she felt it, she acted before Princess Chen in order to help Princess Chen. Xiao Wanru almost applauded Infanta Yuan and for her wonderful reversal. For a moment, Infanta Yuan, who was suspected the most, became the kind-hearted one. Infanta Yuan's words were so wonderful that she wanted to say something. He leaned back and leisurely leaned against the pendant. He looked at the hazy silhouettes outside the curtain. Princess Yuan and Princess Yu Yen had officially shed all pretense of cordiality. Not bad. Princess Yu Yen, although Yuan is usually not very sensible, he has always had a good relationship with Princess Chen. Previously, he even specially went to visit Princess Chen when she was sick. Why would he want to harm Princess Chen? Princess Yu Yen, what is your reason? Did you find something here? Chu Liuzhou interrupted Princess Yu Yen's words with a sullen face. Her words were milder than Infanta Yuan Anne's. She didn't directly say that Princess Yu Yen deliberately framed Princess Chen, but secretly gave her a way out. If it wasn't necessary to push one of them out, Chu Liuzhou didn't want to really offend Princess Yu Yen. He felt that Princess Yu Yen's arrival was very promising. Princess Yu Yen, Princess Yun. You must give me an explanation for what happened today. Chu Liuyue's voice suddenly came from the door. Behind him, Zhang Qilan, whose eyes were red and swollen from crying, stood behind him. Well, why is there another Chu Liyue? Chu Liuzhou had a headache. Although he knew that there might be something in the princess's mansion today, he didn't expect that it would be so big that two people were plotted against at once. He couldn't deal with Chu Luchen alone, so he had to use Princess Yuyen. Now Chu Liyue was involved, which made Chu Liuzhou have a headache. Princess Yun, what did I do to offend you? Why did you do this? Zhang Qilan turned around from behind Chu Liyue, looked at the two of them, and blamed them while crying. She was not stupid. She connected the cause and effect of many things. When she saw Princess Yuyen and Infanta Yuan and rushing into Xiao Wanru's room together, she felt that something was wrong. After thinking about it carefully, she broke out in a cold sweat. If something happened to Xiao Wanru today, she would definitely not be able to escape. Even if she had carefully set up a trap in the tea room, it would be useless. At that time, when she was in the tea room, she deliberately went outside. She thought that if this matter was found here, they would definitely think that someone deliberately wanted to deal with her, so they took advantage of her going outside to put medicine in her pastries. After all, she was the one who used the pastries at that time. Zhang Qilan calmly thought about the matter very thoroughly, but she didn't expect that she had fallen into the trap of Infanta Yuan and Princess Yuan. Now seeing the two of them, she was so angry that she vented all the grievances and anger she had suffered from Xiao Wanru on them. Just now in the wing room, she cried and complained to Chu Liyue. Of course, she put all the blame on Infanta Yuan and Princess Yuyan. Chu Liyue looked at the women in the room with a gloomy face. Finally, he turned his eyes to Chu Liuzhou and said, "Second brother, you must give me an explanation for this matter. Infanta Yuan is your future Princess Zhou. Now she has schemed against third brother and me. What does she want?" Unlike Chu Liuzhou, Chu Liyue hoped that this matter would fall on Infanta Yuan. Of course, he looked at Chu Liuzhou. "What did you say, big brother? What's the matter with Miss Zhang?" Chu Liuzhou had a headache and suppressed his anger. Now was different from the past. His mother had repeatedly sent someone to tell him to be careful and keep a low profile. Miss Zhang is my future princess. Even if she has done something wrong, I can ask someone to remind her. There is no need to put medicine in her pastries and make her faint. There is also a servant who was knocked out at the door. If she hadn't brought a rough old maid here, I'm afraid that something would have happened. Chu Liyue said angrily. Chu Liuzhou opened his mouth and was tongue-tied. He was anxious and angry. Chu Liuchen's matter had not been solved, and now Chu Liyue's matter had happened. He really couldn't bear it alone. Turning his eyes, he saw Princess Yuyen, who was silent, and sneered. Chu Liyue wanted to put the matter on Infanta Yuan, but he didn't think that he was also involved. "Princess Yuyen, please explain why this is so?" Chu Liuzhou said to Princess Yuyen in a stern voice. Both Princess Chen and Miss Zhang had an accident. Infanta Yuan, who was originally a guest in the mansion, can't absolve herself from the blame. What about Princess Yun, the host? What do you mean? I heard that you specially went to Prince Yu's mansion and paid a visit to Big Brother. All the princes present knew about this, but they didn't say it out loud. Zhang Qilan raised her head in surprise and looked at Princess Yuyen in astonishment. Then she looked at Chu Liyue. She didn't know about this. I don't know anything. I just accompanied Infanta Yuan to wander around. Infanta Yuan then said that she was tired and wanted to come in to have a rest. There was a maid in the way. I thought that something had happened to Princess Chen, so I asked someone to take the maid away. Princess Yuyen's face turned red and she hurriedly explained. Although she had the intention, and Chu Liyue also expressed his intention, he couldn't say it openly. The future Princess Yu was still Zhang Qilan, and she was still going to marry Chu Qing. Nonsense. You want to come here to have a rest? I don't know where this place is. Infanta Yun heard that Princess Yun put the matter on her again and shouted anxiously. She didn't dare to take responsibility for this matter. Looking at the malice in Chu Liuzhou's eyes, she knew that if she took responsibility for this matter, the situation would not be good. I'm not talking nonsense. I just arrived in the capital city and don't know anything. Infanta Yuan and helped me with many things. Even if I went to Prince Yu's mansion, it was also Infanta Yuan An's idea. She said that she would invite Prince Zhou. In Prince Chen's mansion, Big Sister had already invited Princess Chen that day, so they must have come together. Only Prince Yu's mansion didn't invite anyone, so I specially made this trip. Infanta, I thought you were a good person, but it turns out, Princess Yuan was not someone to be trifled with. She immediately turned hostile, threw herself into the arms of the palace maid and cried. Second brother, I was wondering why Princess Yuan came here. She is a guest from afar. Even if it doesn't conform to the rules, I have to welcome her. I didn't expect that it has something to do with Infanta Yuan. Infanta Yuan and is really good at using money and power. She has only been in the capital city for a few days, and such a thing has happened. Let's go to the palace and ask father to judge the reason and ask him what is the reason. Chu Luiwei was extremely excited. He stepped forward and pulled Chu Liuzhou's sleeve to go out. Princess Yuan pushed all the blame to Infanta Yuan, so Infanta Yuan and immediately became the biggest suspect. In particular, Princess Yuan also pushed the matter of visiting Prince Yu's mansion to Infanta Yuan. Seeing Chu Liuzhou being pulled out by Chu Luiwei, Infanta Yuan and was so anxious that she rushed over, grabbed Princess Yuan's head, and burst into tears. Princess Yuan, how can you say that? If you didn't want to be Princess Yu, how could I suggest you to go to Prince Yu's mansion? If you didn't want to marry Commandery Prince Qing and want to enter Prince Yu's mansion, how could you stay with Prince Yu alone? Now you actually pushed this matter to me. You've gone too far. What nonsense are you talking about? How could I marry Prince Yu? Princess Yuyan's matter was exposed. No matter how thick-skinned she was, she couldn't bear it. She shook off Infanta Yuan An's hand. Infanta Yuan and was thrown out. She staggered a few steps and hit the pillar on one side. The servant girl standing beside her couldn't stop her. Infanta Yuan An's head hit the pillar with a bang. Infanta Yuan An's forehead immediately bled and she passed out. Infanta. The servant girl she brought screamed and rushed to Infanta Yuan and one after the other. Chapter 1170. No one had expected that Princess Yuyan's push would cause Infanta Yuan and to hit her head. Princess Yuyan also panicked. Her hands and feet trembled and she muttered to herself, "No, it's not like that. I didn't use my strength. I didn't push her. Go get the doctor." Princess Yutao appeared at the door. She looked inside and ordered a palace maid beside her. The palace maid turned around and ran out. In the bed, Xiao Wanru looked at the scene in front of her calmly. Infanta Yuan and was indeed the one who could survive after Prince Zhou's accident in the last life. Just from this scene she knew that she was not easy to deal with. She took advantage of the situation and threw herself out heavily. Even Xiao Wanru, who was in bed, could hear it clearly. It could be seen that she really used her strength and was not afraid that she would really get into trouble. In this case, it was impossible for her to be unscathed. She brought up Princess Yuyan's matter, argued with Princess Yuyan, and then threw herself out. Princess Yuyan couldn't escape even if she wanted to. She didn't expect that Princess Yuyan took a fancy to Chu Luiwei. No wonder even Zhang Qilan was included. She slightly raised the corners of her mouth and smiled faintly. None of the people in front of her did not have malicious intentions towards her. Now they were biting each other. She was not surprised. Whether it was Zhang Qilan, Infanta Yuan, or even Princess Yuyan, they were not easy to deal with. Then let them bite each other first. The doctor came quickly. After seeing Infanta Yuan An's injury, he bandaged it for her. At this point, it was no longer clear to a few people. They went out together. Some got on horses and some got on carriages. They all went to the Imperial Palace. When they arrived at the palace gate, the three brothers went to the emperor's imperial study, and the women all went to the harem. Concubine Ming and Concubine De met a group of people. The empress was not in charge now, and the empress dowager was not feeling well, so they did not dare to disturb her. This matter fell on Concubine De and Concubine Ming. Concubine Ming was very satisfied that Chu Liuxin did not catch up with this matter. At this time, she comforted everyone with a smile on her face. Concubine Da's face was much uglier. Zhang Qilan was the daughter-in-law she fancied. Judging from the current situation, this Princess Yuyan from the Su kingdom also seemed to like her son. Usually, Concubine Da wouldn't mind that Chu Luiyue had one more concubine. The princess of the Su kingdom was just a princess of a small country. Although she had the backing of a country, the princess of the Su kingdom didn't have much help, unless her brother was still the emperor of the Su kingdom in the future. She was much less useful than Zhang Qilan. After seeing Zhang Qilan tell the story in tears, Concubine Da looked at Princess Yu Yen with an unfriendly expression. The princess of a small country still couldn't recognize her identity. She didn't want to marry that useless Chu Qing. She wanted to covet her son and even wanted to harm her daughter-in-law. Why didn't he see if he had the face to do so? Everyone understood what had happened. It was clear that Princess Yuan and Princess Yuyen had schemed against Princess Chen and Zhang Qilan. Although Princess Yuan had also come, she was still lying unconscious in the side hall. The imperial physicians from the palace had already come to check on her. They all said that she was seriously injured. If she didn't wake up, it would be a big problem. Xiao Wenru did not cry. She only answered a few words when Zhang Qilan mentioned her. She was the most innocent one, much more innocent than Zhang Qilan. Obviously, she would not implicate him. He had the evidence of her framing him. She lowered her head and looked at the ground in front of her. Her long eyelashes fluttered twice, concealing all the emotions in her eyes. She quietly listened to the direction of this matter. What does Princess Yu Yen mean? After Zhang Qilan finished speaking, Concubine Da pulled her to the side and sat her down. She looked at Princess Yu Yen with an unfriendly expression. Everyone had experienced this in the palace. How could they not know that this was Princess Yu Yan's plot? Of course, Princess Yuan could not escape. In Concubine Da's heart, Princess Yu Yen was really not a big deal. She was even worse than Princess Yuan. Thinking that this woman was a fickle woman, she felt more and more disgusted. Concubine Da, I really don't know how things turned out like this. I just arrived in the capital city and listened to Princess Yuan. I thought that Princess Yuan was wholeheartedly for me. Princess Yu Yen cried. On the way here, Princess Yu Tao had already told her that if she couldn't catch Princess Yuan, she would be finished. Princess Yu Tao actually didn't want to care about her, but she was her sister after all. She had to bear the responsibility of the marriage. If she was really crippled here, the country would probably ask her to stay for the marriage. Concubine Da, when we first arrived in the capital city of the kingdom of Dongsong, we didn't know anyone. Second sister said that Princess Yuan was a good person. They played together and got along very well. If I had known that they would cause such a thing, I would definitely not let second sister be with Princess Yuan. Princess Yu Tao stepped forward and bowed to Concubine Da. Her words were very pertinent. She didn't say that Princess Yu Yen was definitely not responsible, but her words were clever. The focus of her words fell on Princess Yuan. Compared with Princess Yu Yen, Princess Yuan knew more things. Even if she schemed against others, it was easier for her to be schemed against. Moreover, her relationship with Prince Chen's mansion and Prince Yu's mansion was complicated. Hearing that Princess Yu Tao didn't completely evade responsibility, Concubine Da's face softened a little. She said, Princess Yu Tao, since your sister is going to marry Commandery Prince Qing, she should naturally have more contact with him. She should go to Commandery Prince Qing's mansion if she has nothing to do. Even if she wants to play, Commandery Prince Qing will accompany her. How can the future Princess Zhou accompany her? Princess Yuan is going to marry Prince Zhou. How can she have time to accompany her sister? Concubine Da's words almost confirmed the fact that Princess Yu Yen was going to marry Chu Qing. Princess Yu Yen was very unconvinced. She had made a scene for so long just to not marry Chu Qing. She wanted to marry Chu Luiyue. How could she marry Chu Qing, a useless wretch? When she was about to speak, she saw Princess Yu Tao staring at her. She had to lower her head. At this time, she didn't dare to quarrel with Princess Yu Tao. Of course, the matter between my second sister and Commandery Prince Qing has been decided by my father in the Su country. But when we arrived in the Dongtsang country, there has been no emperor's decree. I'm afraid that my second sister doesn't think that the emperor means this. Princess Yu Tao explained. Concubine Da took a deep breath. Although she didn't like Princess Yu Yen, she also knew that Princess Yu Yen was related to the national affairs of the two countries, not the affairs of the inner court. She said, since it's a matter between Princess Yuan and Princess Yu Yen, I can't interfere. Just wait for the emperor's decree. Princess Yu Yen didn't have much help, and she was also a troublemaker. She would not allow Princess Yu Yen to marry into her son's Prince Yu's mansion. Concubine Da thought for a while and looked at Xiao Wanru, who was sitting beside her, and asked softly, Princess Qin, what do you think about this matter? Concubine Da thought for a while and looked at Xiao Wanru, who was sitting beside her, and asked softly. Xiao Wanru was the most innocent one in this matter. Xiao Wanru raised her delicate little face, curved her red lips, and said softly, At your command, Your Highness. Speaking of this matter, you and Qilan are very innocent. You are Prince Chen's wife, the first daughter-in-law of the royal family. You can't be wronged. Concubine Da said. Although Zhang Qilan and Princess Yuan were also daughter-in-law, they had not married yet. Concubine Da was pushing the blame to Xiao Wanru. No matter how Xiao Wanru dealt with it, she would definitely offend someone. Your Highness, the Emperor also knows about this matter. Let's wait for the Emperor to decide. Xiao Wanru said calmly. She glanced at Zhang Qilan with a deep look in her eyes. Mother, let's wait for the Emperor to decide. Looking at Xiao Wanru's eyes, Zhang Qilan had to avoid Concubine Da's words. She didn't dare to do so. Xiao Wanru knew this matter best. Concubine Da frowned. She looked at Zhang Qilan and then at Xiao Wanru. She had heard that Zhang Qilan and Xiao Wanru had a good relationship before, but it really made her unhappy that they were so close. Zhang Qilan was going to marry her son in the future. She should put the interests of Prince Yu's mansion first. If she couldn't be wholehearted with her son, what was the use of this daughter-in-law? Concubine Da, Concubine Ming, the emperor has an edict. The eunuch's shrill voice came in, and then a big eunuch came with a few little eunuchs. The crowd hurriedly stood up and knelt down to receive the edict. There were 2 imperial edicts. One was for Princess Yu Yen and Chu Qing to get married, but it didn't say whether she would be the princess or not. It only said that she would marry Chu Qing as the princess and the daughter of the Mo family as concubines. There must be a secondary wife, a principal wife, or even a concubine. Even if she was a secondary wife, her status was not as good as that of the principal wife. When Concubine Da heard this, she breathed a sigh of relief in her heart. She was afraid that the emperor would think that Princess Yu Yen and her son had an affair and let Princess Yu Yen marry into Prince Yu's mansion. Then how could Prince Yu's mansion be peaceful? Now it was Commandery Prince Qing's mansion, which had nothing to do with Concubine Da. Such a troublemaker didn't even get the title of the princess. She might make trouble in Chu Qing's mansion, as long as it was not Prince Yu's mansion. Originally, with Princess Yu Yen's status, the position of Chu Qing's princess must be given to her. But now, the emperor only said that Chu Qing would be concubine. It was not just a secondary wife, but also a concubine. As for the specific situation, it depended on the actual operation. The emperor gave such an edict, which showed that he was annoyed with Princess Yu Yen. Even if it was because of the diplomatic relations between the two countries, it was impossible to really kill Princess Yu Yen, but the current edict was enough to make her suffer. Since she didn't like Chu Qing and wanted to find another family, the emperor would let her not even get the title of the princess's mansion. If she had so much energy to find a good wife for herself, she would not stir up trouble outside and cause trouble in several princes' mansions. The wedding date was set very soon, which was 1 month later. The marriage of Prince Yu and Prince Zhou was also around this time, but their marriage had been prepared for a long time. Only Princess Yu Yen's marriage was temporary and extremely hasty. When Princess Yu Yen heard this edict, she knew that the situation was hopeless. Now she could only follow Chu Qing, who she despised the most. Moreover, she had to use all her schemes to get the title of the princess. In anger and anxiety, she rolled her eyes and directly fainted. Chapter 1171. Another imperial edict from the emperor was for concubine Da and concubine Ming. Concubine Da was asked to choose another 3 noble ladies to enter Prince of Zhou's mansion on the day of Prince of Zhou's wedding. That was to say, on the day of Prince of Zhou's wedding, 5 brides were sent. 1 concubine, 2 concubines, and 2 concubines got married at the same time. On the day of the wedding, Prince of Zhou could go to whichever bride he liked. It was not like the previous arrangement that the concubine married for a month first, and then the concubine married. The princess consort, the concubine consort, and the concubine consort entering together was slapping the princess consort's face. Even if she gave birth to the eldest son of a concubine, the royal family would approve of it. The emperor gave Infanta Yuan a hard slap in the face for what had happened before. Even if Infanta Yuan was unconscious and seemed to be unable to be saved, he would still punish her. In the end, the emperor's decree also said that if something happened to Infanta Yuan, concubine Da and concubine Ming were to be ordered to choose another noble lady to marry into Prince Zhou's mansion. She must be virtuous and virtuous. If she behaved improperly or harbored evil intentions, she would not be allowed to marry her, no matter how beautiful she was or how rich her family background was. The meaning of these words was clear. It was a slap to Infanta Yuan's face. If Infanta Yuan was dead, then so be it. They could just choose another Princess Zhou. If nothing happened to her, they would have a hard time in the future. Concubines and concubines married at the same time, and the one chosen was a noble lady from a famous family. Her status was no less than that of Commandery Princess Yuan. If she was favored by Prince of Zhou, her status as the princess would only be an ornament. It was obvious that the emperor was very displeased with Princess Yuan. As for Zhang Qilan and Xiao Wanru, of course, their main task was to appease them. The emperor rewarded them with things, and so did concubine Da and concubine Ming. Then he arranged for them to go back to their mansions. Zhang Qilan and Xiao Wanru were the last to leave. Now, only the 2 of them had nothing to do. Coming out of concubine Da's palace, Zhang Qilan looked at Xiao Wanru and wanted to say something but stopped on second thought. Xiao Wanru calmly walked past her with a cold look in her eyes. When Zhang Qilan wanted to hurt her, the 2 of them were destined to be enemies. It was meaningless whether it was a misunderstanding or not. She had always been cold and indifferent. She would not waste any affection for a person who framed her. The 2 of them passed by each other and gradually drifted apart. Although the 2 of them were fated to meet at a certain point, after this point, they were heading in opposite directions. A palace maid walked past Xiao Wanru in a hurry. It seemed that she was going to report to concubine Da. Xiao Wanru stood still and looked at a familiar figure standing not far behind the palace maid. She narrowed her watery eyes slightly. It turned out to be Xiao Yanru's maid, Moyan. Was it Xiao Yanru? Not long after returning to the mansion, Chu Luchen came back. After entering the door, he looked at Chiju's face and said worriedly, "Do you want Chiju to come and have a look?" "It's okay. I didn't use the cake." Yu Jie pointed at a place to make Zhang Qilan turn her head and put the cake in her sleeve. Xiao Wanru had changed her clothes and explained with a smile. At that time, she had already felt that Zhang Qilan was suspicious, so how could she use the cake she sent? Xiao Wanru didn't think that she dared to try it with her own body because she knew some medicinal materials. Who knew what Zhang Qilan would put in the cake? The fragrance of the cake was too strong, so she couldn't smell it at the moment. Now she was secretly glad that Zhang Qilan's powder was extremely vicious. It not only made her temporarily dizzy, but also might have an impact on her children. After coming back just now, she had asked Chiju to test it. The reason why she was not sure was that Chiju said that this medicine might have been developed by Dr. Chiu, and some details had not been confirmed. This reminded Xiao Wanru of Dr. Chiu. He was first Xiao Yanru's man and had something to do with the deputy prime minister's mansion. Later, he became Prince Zhou's man and even treated Infanta Yuan's face. After that, he entered the palace. He should also have a plot. Just now, Moyan was there, but it didn't seem to cause trouble. "I'm going to change my clothes." Seeing that Xiao Wanru was really fine and looked fine, Chu Luchen said. Xiao Wanru raised her nose and sniffed. She suddenly stood up and her face changed greatly. She reached out to pull Chu Liuchen's robe and asked, "Are you hurt?" "How could I be hurt? It's not my blood. It's the blood of 2 palace maids." Chu Liuchen looked at Xiao Wanru's situation and knew that he couldn't hide it. He pulled the corner of his robe and said with a smile. There were blood stains on the wide sleeves. "Are you okay?" "Nothing. Don't worry. When I arrived at the palace gate, I saw a few people coming out of the palace. I was so angry that I ordered someone to kill them." Chu Liuchen said lazily. "Who did you kill?" "The blood of Princess Yuyen's 2 palace maids splashed on Zhang Qilan's palanquin. They were really scared and fell to the ground directly. How dare they plot against my princess with such courage?" Chu Liuchen said coldly. Princess Yuyen was carried out in a coma. Although Zhang Qilan walked behind, she moved quickly. The 2 of them almost arrived at the palace gate one after another. However, Chu Liuchen didn't come back from the side door this time. He actually went to the palace gate and killed Princess Yuyen's 2 palace maids on the spot. Zhang Qilan, who had just gotten out of the palanquin, was so scared that she directly sat on the ground. "Your Highness, if the censor sees this, he will accuse you again," Xiao Wanru said worriedly. Thinking that Chu Liuchen was avenging her, she felt sweet in her heart, but she was still a little worried. Of course, she didn't believe that they met by chance. Chu Liuchen was not the kind of person who could meet by chance. If he wanted to avoid it, it was impossible for them to meet at the palace gate. "What are you afraid of? No one will expose this matter. Chu Luiyue is not willing to expose it, and Chu Liuzhou will not be willing to expose it. As for Chu Qing, he has no right to object at all." Chu Liuchen said lightly and raised the corner of his mouth. If they really cared about it, Princess Yuyen would have to die to atone for her crime, and Infanta Yuan, and would not get any benefits. As for Zhang Qilan, she was also not clean. No one in the court was willing to expose this matter. Hearing his words, Xiao Wanru breathed a sigh of relief. She pushed him into the room to change into a lotus-colored long robe, took off his high golden crown, and only tied it with a belt casually. She looked much more casual and relaxed. "What about Miss Qin?" Xiao Wanru personally tied the belt for Chu Liuchen and asked softly. "What can I do? She will give me everything. Don't worry." Chu Liuchen comforted Xiao Wanru. After thinking for a while, he said, "You don't have to worry about concubine Lan. If something happens to her, you can just respect her. If she makes things difficult for you, you can blame it on me. Don't worry about it." "But she is an elder after all," Xiao Wanru said tentatively. Chu Liuchen snorted coldly and said with a very ugly face, "You don't have to worry about it. She can do whatever she wants." His words were cold, and he was neither happy nor angry. Xiao Wanru reached out to hold his strong waist and snuggled into his arms. "I know what to do." Since Chu Liuchen didn't care, she didn't have to compromise. If concubine Lan was really kind to them, she wouldn't make things difficult for her. If concubine Lan had other intentions and even threatened Chu Liuchen, Xiao Wanru didn't mind dealing with Qin Yin, the spy concubine Lan sent to the mansion. It was not that she didn't dare to deal with Qin Yin. She would deal with Qin Yin for Chu Liuchen's sake. When the news that the second princess of the Su kingdom was going to marry Commandery Prince Qing spread, many people felt as if the dust had settled. This Princess Yu Yen was going to marry Chu Qing, and she had an ambiguous relationship with Chu Qing before, so she should have married Chu Qing. However, some well-informed people said that Princess Yu Yen was actually going to marry Prince Yu, and the 2 of them had mutual affection. Unfortunately, she and Commandery Prince Qing were already in love, and they even got the consent of Emperor Yen. Of course, she couldn't change her mind at this time. Her words sounded reasonable, as if there was no other way. Many people despised this Princess Yu Yen of the Su kingdom in private. She was a fickle woman who actually looked at one prince and thought of another prince. It could be said that she was extremely shameless and cheap. How could a woman do such a thing? Later, when they heard that the second princess of the Su kingdom was going to marry Commandery Prince Qing, who might only be a concubine, many people praised it and felt relieved. Such a woman, if it weren't for her noble identity, should be drowned in a pig cage. They secretly despised this princess of the Su kingdom. Prince Zhou was appointed to marry again, and the other 3 noble ladies entered Prince Zhou's mansion surrounded by flowers, which surprised many people. After being shocked, they inquired about what had happened in the princess mansion that day. On that day, a large group of people went to the palace before the banquet in the princess mansion started. There were 3 princes, including a princess, 2 future princesses, and 2 princesses. After entering the palace, it could be seen that Princess Yuan and Infanta Yuan were punished. Needless to say, Infanta Yuan and Princess Yuan must have done something together, but they couldn't find out the details. Later, at the gate of the palace, Prince Chen was angry, killed 2 palace maids of the Su kingdom, and scared Prime Minister Zhang's daughter to the ground. This happened at the gate of the palace, and many people saw it, so it couldn't be hidden. Many people also secretly speculated about this matter. Under normal circumstances, even if the emperor didn't do anything to Prince Chen, Prime Minister Zhang and Prince Yu would not tolerate it. However, no one impeached Prince Chen the next day, so it could be seen that there was an inside story. Perhaps Miss Zhang, who was about to become Princess Yu, was also involved in it. It was somewhat unclear. Zhang Qilan had always given people a kind feeling, and her temperament was very likable. Many old madams in the mansion liked her. After this incident, many people were suspicious, and Zhang Qilan was also suspected. Whoever was involved in this kind of thing would be unlucky. As for Prince Chen and Princess Chen, no one suspected them. In any case, Prince Chen's mansion was the righteous party. Then another news came out from the palace. Xiao Baolin died. When the news came out, many people thought it was so, and some people thought it was unlikely. Xiao Yanru had only been in the palace for a short time. Even if she was banished to the cold palace, she would not have died in such a short time. When Xiao Wanru received the news, she was also stunned for a moment. She always felt that things would not be so simple. If Xiao Yanru was so useless, she would not have been able to mix with Chu Luiwei in the last life after entering the palace. Now there were many accidents in the palace, and the empress also lived an idle life. After all, concubine Da and concubine Ming were not legitimate. Moreover, she was an unfavored concubine. After entering the palace, she only offended the empress. Concubine Lan had just been favored, but she still looked calm. Except for the emperor who went to her palace from time to time, there were still guards guarding outside her door. Other concubines wanted to enter the palace. Who killed Xiao Baolin? Dying of a sudden illness? It was too childish. Chapter 1172. Xiao Yanru died of an acute illness? When Xiao Wanru heard the news, her first feeling was that she didn't believe it. How could she believe it? Who was Xiao Yanru? How could someone like her die of an acute illness? No matter whether others believed it or not, she didn't believe it. In her last life, Xiao Yanru also entered the palace as a favorite concubine. Compared with now, she had more enemies and more ruthless enemies. Even so, she had been living well and being superior. Did she change in this life because of her? Anyway, she didn't think it was credible. Your Highness, Prince asked if you were ready. Yu Jie came in and reported. They were about to enter the palace. Xiao Wanru nodded and stood up. She had already tidied up and was waiting for Chu Luqian to come from the front yard. They entered the palace from the side door and went straight to the Empress Dowager's palace of benevolent peace. Since the Empress Dowager fell ill, she had been in low spirits and didn't like to see others. They went in and bowed to the Empress Dowager. The Empress Dowager seemed to be in good spirits today. Sitting in the hall, she touched a string of Buddha beads in her hand and looked calm. After the two bowed, the Empress Dowager asked them to sit down and asked, "What happened that day? Why did Yuan get so seriously injured? Didn't he just attend a banquet?" Ruiping Great Elder Princess specially came over to complain with tears several times. The Empress Dowager had a headache because of her crying. She didn't want to ask others about it, so she specially called her grandson and granddaughter-in-law over to ask. Imperial grandmother, Yuan had evil intentions. He colluded with Princess Yuyan of the Su state to hurt Prime Minister Zhang's daughter and my princess. Later, he and Princess Yuyan went to the river. He deserved it. Chu Luchen said indifferently, "Uncle also knows about it. You don't have to worry about it." Although the Empress Dowager was the Emperor's biological mother, she was in the inner palace. Since the Emperor intervened, it was inconvenient for the Empress Dowager to interfere in it, lest there would be a rift between the mother and the son. The Empress Dowager also understood this. Regarding this point, the Empress Dowager believed that she had done it very well. Although she also felt that some things were not good, she would at most advise him in private. She was still very clear about her son's temperament. He was a stubborn person who could not be pulled back by even 9 oxen. "I understand. Let's end this matter here." The Empress Dowager didn't want to care about this matter either. She felt a headache when she thought about it. She didn't have a good impression of Princess Yuyen of the Su Kingdom. "I heard that Princess Yuyen of the Su Kingdom is not a good person. Commandery Prince Qing had an affair with her early on. Otherwise, he would have married Princess Yutao." Although Commandery Princess Yuyen was not a good person, she had at least behaved herself before. Now that things had turned out like this, the Empress Dowager felt extremely unlucky. "I don't have much energy recently, and the Empress is like this. There are only Concubine Da and Concubine Ming in the palace. It's not the same thing. As for Concubine Lan..." Empress Dowager looked at Chu Luchen and stopped talking. "Imperial Grandmother, do you dislike Concubine Lan?" Chu Luchen didn't have any scruples and asked bluntly. The Empress Dowager looked at Chu Luchen again. Seeing that he looked calm and there was nothing unusual, she sighed and said, "She is also a poor person." "A poor person must have something hateful." Chu Luchen's eyes were slightly cold. You can't say that. At least you can't say that." The Empress Dowager reprimanded him in a low voice. After saying that, she reached out and pressed between her eyebrows with a sense of tiredness. "It's also I who let her down and let her fall into this situation. You must not look down on her because of this. She is always sincere to you. After all, she is your biological aunt." Xiao Wanru's eyes fell on a stone brick in front of her. Her eyes were inexplicably deep. She sat quietly on one side without saying a word. Only her clenched hands showed that she was also extremely restless in her heart. Chu Luchen didn't like Concubine Lan, not on the surface, but really didn't like her. The matter about Concubine Lan was the last secret in his heart, and it was also the unbearable thing that he was most unwilling to mention, right? She gently bit her cherry lips and lowered her head slightly. Although she couldn't see his face and could only see the hem of his clothes, her heart was fiercely pinched and hurt. Like her, Chu Luchen also had no fate with his parents. "Imperial Grandmother, we don't have to talk about her. I happen to have something to do. Uncle said that he wanted to see me today. I'll go to the Imperial study first and come back to accompany you later." Chu Luchen said with an obvious avoidance attitude. "Okay, go ahead." The Empress Dowager sighed and nodded kindly. Even if they were his aunt and nephew, it was not so easy to make chin or care about them for a while because they didn't usually contact each other. The Empress Dowager asked Xiao Wanru to send Chu Luchen to the palace gate. When they reached the palace gate, Chu Luchen turned to Xiao Wanru and said, "Uncle may have something to do today. Go back first. Don't wait for me. You can also take a walk in the palace and enjoy the scenery. Don't get tired." Xiao Wanru reached out and gently pulled his sleeve, shook it with a little shyness, and then put it down. "I know. Be careful." Recently, the Imperial study had not been peaceful. It was said that there would be arguments from time to time because of the affairs of the princes. "I know." Chu Luchen grabbed Xiao Wanru's hand with a soft smile on his handsome face. He gently pinched her little hand and then put it down. The two of them had the same mind. Even if they didn't say it clearly, Chu Luchen had already understood. Looking at the flower-like smile in front of him, his heart was softened. The gloom caused by some old things just now dissipated a lot. Seeing Chu Luchen striding away and disappearing, Xiao Wanru turned around and suddenly glanced at a figure out of the corner of her eye. She frowned slightly and thought of the Buddha beads she saw on the Empress Dowager's wrist just now. When she re-entered the main hall, the Empress Dowager was reading a scripture in the main hall. Seeing her come over, she put down the scripture, and Nanny Wei quietly put it aside. I'm sorry for what happened that day. The Empress Dowager asked Xiao Wanru to sit down and said gently. Although several people were punished for what happened in the princess's mansion, in fact, Princess Yuyan was not really punished due to the relationship between the two countries. Princess Yuyan was the mastermind. Since she survived and had a marriage, it was inconvenient to punish Infanta Yuan and as an accomplice. Moreover, no one knew whether she was alive or dead at that time. No one knew whether she could be saved or not. Empress Dowager, I don't feel wronged. His Highness will protect me. Xiao Wanru said with a soft smile, and her eyes were clear. The Empress Dowager looked at her and found that there was no trace of resentment in her eyes. She was happy and patted her hand gently. Nanny Wei, bring the things I prepared. Yes, Empress Dowager. I've already prepared them. Nanny Wei said with a smile and asked someone to bring a brocade box from the side hall. 4 palace maids came forward, and Nanny Wei stepped forward to open them. There were jewels in the brocade boxes, full of dazzling jewels. Xiao Wanru was very surprised. Her eyes were very sharp. Such a piece of jewels was already a treasure, let alone there were so many of them. Good girl, this is a reward from me. Ask someone to take it back later. The Empress Dowager said with a satisfied smile. The more she looked at this girl, the more satisfied she was. She was worthy of her grandson. Seeing so many jewels, she was shocked and surprised, but not greedy. It could be seen that she was a pure girl. She had a good temperament. Imperial grandmother, this is too much, Xiao Wanru said. She did not understand why the Empress Dowager suddenly gave her so many jewels. She had been rewarded in the past, but not so much. Prime Minister Zhang only has one daughter. He loves her like a pearl and has a lot of dowries. So does Yuan. Ruiping Great Elder Princess almost gave her all her private money. Prince Yu is the son of concubine Da, and Prince Zhou is the son of the Empress. Only Chenra and I are left. Since I love you, I can't let you be weaker than them. The Empress Dowager sighed softly, patted Xiao Wanru's back and said, This is a gift from me. Just take it. Thank you, Imperial Grandmother. Xiao Wanru felt warm in her heart and her eyes turned slightly red. At this time, the Empress Dowager was very like old Madame Qin. This kind of sincere love didn't need too many words. The Empress Dowager took pity on her dowry, which was not as good as the other two. Prince Chen's mansion had a poor foundation, so she specially gave these things. Although she asked for some back at the beginning and her maternal grandmother also added a lot for her, she had rejected most of them and asked her maternal grandmother to leave them to Hao. She believed that she could live a good life. At present, the Empress Dowager's reward was the Empress Dowager's kindness to Chu Luqian and herself. At this moment, the Empress Dowager was more like an ordinary old woman who cared about her grandson. Well, go back first. I'm also tired. Before leaving the palace, go to concubine Da's place. She wants to talk to you. The Empress Dowager yawned and ordered softly, looking extremely tired. Yes, Grandma, do you feel uncomfortable? Xiao Wanru stood up and her eyes fell on the Empress Dowager's face. The Empress Dowager looked fine. Could it be that she had just recovered from her illness and was so weak that she was tired after sitting for a while? I don't feel uncomfortable, but I'm a little tired. The Empress Dowager pinched the Buddha beads in her hand and turned them around. Imperial Grandmother, I'm leaving. Xiao Wanru saw the Empress Dowager yawn again. Maybe she was really tired. She had something to say to her, but she could only do it next time. Nanny Wei walked Xiao Wanru to the palace gate and stood at the door with a smile on her face. Since what had happened before, Nanny Wei had been smiling very kindly when she saw Xiao Wanru, as if there was no grudge between them. Nanny Wei, did the Palace of Benevolent Peace send the nuns from the hall over? Xiao Wanru stood still and asked calmly. The figure she saw just now was a woman in a gray monk's robe. She didn't see her face, so she didn't know if she was one of the people she was familiar with. Indeed. Just now, the Empress Dowager invited one over and talked about Buddhist scriptures for a while. Prince Chen and Princess Yu were still here when they came just now. Nanny Wei nodded and said with a smile, secretly suppressing the panic in her heart. Princess Chen's eyes were too sharp, but this kind of thing couldn't be hidden, and there was no need to hide it. You're tuning in to the Passion Pages YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.